Meeting of the Charleston County Board of Education to order. As usual, would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then the prayer.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight to watch over the school system, and may this board act in your name, do your will to watch over the students of this county, the employees of this county. May we carry out the actions you have done for many years, all the way to the cross, to walk the line that you have set and be the way that you are. May we carry all your actions tonight and all the actions that we do tonight in the words that you have prayed that we live by today. May we keep going in the same direction. Watch over us, hold us tight as we, as a group, lead this school system in the right direction. Amen.
Amen. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address any items on the agenda? Anybody wants to see the agenda? Okay.
Can I say one thing
Sure.
real quick? Just to the viewing audience, please forgive us for being late. It was nobody else's fault in here.
It was mine. 100%. It is. Next is, the agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda.
Mr. Kirk, hold just a second, I'm having a little trouble. Do y'all see a save button on there? Oh, yeah, save attendance. Oh, yes. Okay, I'm sorry. We're having technical challenges here. It may be more operator than anything. But,
Actually, yeah, next,
yes, sir, I'm ready now. I'm ready.
the next thing we really need to do is to approve the minutes from last month.
Is that right?
Or is it,
You gotta approve the agenda first, don't you?
oh, okay. All right. Uh,
1D.
All right, we're actually approving the minutes is not on my,
It's in the consent.
oh, okay. Okay. Next then is the approval of the agenda for tonight. So at this time, this would be, if any board member or anything wanted to pull something from the consent agenda, add something to the agenda, or anything like that, now would be the time to do. We have pulled one item and moved it to new business, which is the rubric, as I'll call it. Most people, educators listening, would know what that means, which is part of the teacher compensation plan. We have moved that to new business. Please look over the consent agenda and see if there's any other items that need to be discussed further. The one that we moved was 2Q.
2R. 2R.
Okay, well, Q goes with it, doesn't it?
No,
Two-
two separate.
Just R.
2Q is the one I would like to be moved to new business, the
Okay.
compensation plan.
I thought yours was a rubric.
She wants the
Yeah, I mean, I
compens-
look at that as all as one.
Yeah,
really.
just put both of them.
Okay, it's two agenda items.
Okay,
Yeah,
2Q.
Q and R.
Two Q and two R?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I didn't move two Q.
Okay, we'll give you a minute.
All right, let me go back here.
Principal, since we're going to be talking about the rubric, that kind of stuff, I'll if need be, I may call on y'all for y'all's help in that. Or your opinions and guidance. Okay.
Where is that? It's continuing. Move it to new business. Save agenda. Mr. Kerr, we're almost there.
Okay, I'm good.
And then, let's go back to you. And let's go back to this. Join the meeting.
Principals, I might also want to call on y'all for y'all's opinion. We're gonna be discussing a potential stipend for teachers that are having to cover planning times for, other teachers. So,
Where is that at? I couldn't find that.
it's already in new business.
Mr. Kerr, we are
It's,
Oh, okay, I see.
6D.
Couldn't find it on my, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
D1, we're back to approval of agenda now.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
all right. Anything else, any other items that we'd like to move to a new business?
Oh, I couldn't find it. Yeah, I'm ready, sorry.
Okay. Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to approve then the consent agenda? To approve the agenda for tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion to approve the agenda for January 19th. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right. Have a second by Ms. Bodie. Any discussion, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. That item does pass unanimously. Now, for our consent agenda, look over the consent agenda again and see if there's anything else. Remember that 2Q and 2R have already been pulled and moved to new business. So please look at those other items and see if there's any of those that need to be moved. All right, hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to.
Motion by Ms. Towns to approve tonight's consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Second by Mr. Atwood. Any other further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. It does pass unanimously. So tonight's consent agenda has been approved. We're now up to school district highlights.
Sure, I have a highlight.
Okay, I've got one, I guess. Let me go first before I forget it. Sitting here for me to announce to y'all, this was here addressed to all of us, the Trouser County Board of Education. This is from Cope Architectures, and it's a holiday card, just wishing us happy holiday. We'll pass that around. If you want. Oh, everybody got one? Oh, okay, good. If everybody wants to, didn't look at it. Cope has been one of the firms that we've done business with in the past, and they have sent us a nice card. We appreciate that. Dr. Satterfield?
This is breaking news. Nobody in the district knows this. Last week, we had our annual Teacher of the Year election at each one of our 3 schools, where I think it's a great honor to be selected as Teacher of the Year by your peers. And we have made this is our principals. Nobody knows this. I saved this news for this evening. I'll let them know tomorrow in an email. But Marilyn Morton has been elected as our Teacher of the Year at the elementary school. Mr. Charles Micah Miller, 7th grade science teacher at the middle school, been elected as Teacher of the Year. And then at the high school is Miss Penny Story. And I think she either was Teacher of the Year last year or the year before.
Yeah, she's,
So,
I think she's had
really,
it several times.
Quite a bit of
Very
experience there
deserving.
and very deserving. So, Mr. Kerr, that's our highlights
I can't think of a better one.
for this month.
I was fortunate to work with Ms. Morton and Ms. Stewart, and I can't think of two more deserving people. And I'm sure that Mr. Miller at the middle school is as equal to the task as the two ladies. Principal's report. We're short a principal tonight. We've excused Mr. McCall so that he could attend his child's, what was it, basketball? Softball.
Basket.
I think
The
it's
middle
there in
school
state
girls are
tournament.
playing the state tournament, the middle
Okay,
school.
okay. I thought she was.
Further discussion?
They don't play until like 8:15, but it's at Murfreesboro, right? Middle
Yeah.
Tennessee? Yeah. Why they
Late
scheduled
game.
one that late, I don't know.
Late game.
Is this like one of those state tournament?
Yeah,
Things
it's
that
a
they-
Hale tournament. I didn't know what night. I knew they were in it. I didn't know they were playing.
That's good. Hopefully they will do well. All right, Ms. Badru, would you like to go first tonight?
I will.
Okay,
It's, I'm long.
that's okay. We got all night.
All night, and I'll try to move as quickly as possible.
These are your materials. You want me
Thank
to
you.
pass these out?
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
Drew's material.
But you don't have to open it yet.
Nobody gave me prior warning that you had a whole,
I told you I was going to be long.
that was when you were just walking up there. I thought you were just trying to get out of it.
This was open, Mr. Kerr.
Oh,
Not ready yet.
okay.
So we have been busy at the elementary school. We have had TNTP, Lynn meetings, we've had our state legislators, and what else have we had? We've had, you name it, we've had it. But we've really been working on our reading screener, we did our second reading screener as well as the Tennessee Success Act. And we have really been working hard to get parents notified. And I can say that our kids are already giving parents information because I've had one meeting and 3 phone calls between dismissal and right before I came here. So the information is getting into the hands of parents, so that's exciting. We'll just let you know that my enrollment, and I include the all, so I know Dr. Satterfield can break it down for you, but I'm looking at about 682, and that's with pre-K at 36, kindergarten 113, first grade 119, second grade 97, third grade 112, fourth grade 102, fifth grade 94. So we have been looking at our absences. We've had 29 the first week back after Christmas break, January 4th through 6th, that was our average. January 9th through 13th, which was last week, was about 39. And this week, January 14th through 19th, has been about 46. So our absences have increased, and it ranges from strep, fevers. There is an awful stomach bug going around, and it is lasting days and days and days, high fevers, and it continues. Upper respiratory complaints. So we haven't had any COVID issues reported to us, and just since we've been back, I'm not saying that they're not out there, I'm just saying that we haven't had any reported to us. So that just gives you an idea of what we have been dealing with. So we have some sick kiddos, so continue to remind your kiddos to wash their hands and not share drinks and all of those grand old things. Now, the red packet. everyone I want you to see, because if someone asks you in public, I want you to know what has gone home so that you have an idea. We
Are
try.
we allowed to open them?
Yes, you're allowed to open it.
I was waiting.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Some people just don't follow the rules, do they, Mr. Kerr?
Well, I didn't hear any pre-directions.
You weren't listening carefully. So, I want everyone to know that we are doing Ames Web, and this is a universal screener. I have yours.
You got mine?
This is yours.
Oh, okay, well,
Oh, no, this is yours.
right, I'm sorry.
I was
I'm
using
sorry.
this, that's okay. Ames Web is our universal screener, and we do this screener 3 times a year in the fall, winter, and spring. So this is our second administration, and the first administration we were learning, the second administration we're getting a little better, so we wanted to let parents know, hey, we have administered our second screener, and this is where your child falls. So we are going to talk about the universal screener as a whole, not 3rd grade yet. We're gonna talk about the universal screener as a whole, so that's K through 5. So if you will look, sorry, Dr. Shadfield, I'm just, no, I was working with parents and I pulled mine out, and so
Here, take mine.
mine's gone.
I know what you got.
There, if you will pull out the green, the gold, and the pink. And for you all, I think it, well, it's blue, sorry. Yeah, this is 3rd grade. That is behind this one, not this one, this one. So yours is on the purple and gold, and you have the green. So it's the same thing, I was just copying and tried to make it a little easier, and that, Mr. Kerr may not see which one we're looking at.
What are we actually looking at?
This one. It's the
I
same
don't have
thing. It's the same thing. You do. This.
Oh, so all that stuff's white.
Yes.
Okay, I got you, okay. You said green, pink, and purple and all this?
You don't. That's
You
a
just-
thing.
For that to be yours.
You don't have it.
Yeah.
She handed it to me.
No, but I'm just saying, because it's white.
And I can see all these colors, just so everybody knows.
Well, I'm just checking. Your packet may be a little short.
I'm blind, but I'm not that blind.
Like everything else in my life, sweetheart.
It's okay. It's okay. This is what you need. This,
Thank
and
you.
this. There you go. So now
Got
you're
me on
complete.
cue now.
Now you're complete. That's not your fault, that was mine. That's because it was late last night when I did this, sorry. So, this one. This is the one that says, hey, we did our screeners, just want you to know. Awesome. Behind this, the parents will have the child's information. So it's called the snapshot. That's going to be behind that. So this is a letter saying, hey, we've screened your kiddo, and behind it will be the child's Ames Web snapshot. Now, if there is a concern, if you are K through 2, it's going to look pink. So the pink one. That's what you will see if it's K through 2. And this lets you know that there is a screener that we did, and because of the screener, the results of the screener, we saw some concerns. And based on those concerns, your child is going to receive an additional 20 or 30 minutes or an additional 50 minutes. So just so that you know, I'll take this one back. Here you go. So if you're K3, this is what it will look like.
K2.
K3. K3 is getting that. They're all pink. If you are 4-5 and we've noticed something based on the screener, it's just a little screener letter that says, hey, we've noticed something based on the screener, we're going to provide some additional support. So this is just the information that kind of tells parents what we're doing with the screeners.
Okay, hold on now. You're saying if you've noticed something, if you haven't noticed something, do they not get anything? They get green. Okay, I got you. Let's rock on.
Green go. So if we haven't noticed anything, it's gonna be green.
And that's for all.
Grade
Okay.
levels, all grade levels. Tried to make it simple, so everybody, if we didn't notice anything, it's green.
Okay.
If we notice something in K2, it's pink, or K3, it's pink, and if it's 4 or 5, it is gold. So there's 3 different, these two say the same, pretty much the same things, but it's just a little different because of the grade levels. Some of the things are not grade level appropriate. So when parents are asking you questions, I just want you to know this is what they're seeing. I did include an example report in there so that you know there are no names on there. So just so that if you have questions, there is an example report. So that, and we talked about these, so you know what the parents are looking at. Now, 3rd grade. Any questions on that? I know it's clear as mud, but it was a lot. It's trying to make it as easy as possible. 3rd grade. Theirs looks a little different. This is an example 3rd grade packet. I have yours. I borrowed your stuff, sorry.
Well, you can have whatever I got, you know. Now, hold on. Now, hold on, just one
Okay.
question. You said K through 3.
Mhm.
Are they getting this and this? Okay, thank you. Okay.
And it was a lot, but we had to, we were sending out the screener information, so we wanted to make sure that our 3rd graders got their screener information as well, so they kind of got it twice, but. Now we're talking about the 3rd grade. This is only 3rd grade received this packet. So did everybody find that one? Perfect. This talks about our benchmark again and the screener. And it just goes through to say, hey, we've noticed something. So, based on the information, you're receiving this letter. How did my child get this letter? There are some different categories. We are trying to err on the side of caution. I don't like surprises. If my kid is right there at the borderline, let me know so that I can really, really, really dig in and work with my kiddo and push them up. Don't just say, hey, everything's perfectly normal, and at the end of the year I get a surprise. So we may have sent out more salmon colored letters than maybe we will need, and that is my hope. I hope that I am sending out way more of these and we don't have to worry about it. So with this, if your child in 3rd grade was not met or exceeded expectations on the ELA Q2 benchmark, you're receiving this letter. So again, if your child in 3rd grade did not meet or exceed benchmark ELA, you will receive this letter. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, you're getting the letter. 3, 4, you won't receive that letter. Is that the only way? No. If you are not proficient on your benchmark, that starts this letter. Screener. If we notice something in your screener, you're receiving this letter. So there are 2 ways that you receive this letter. Benchmark or the screener, universal screener. Are you following me? Does that make sense?
Only 3rd grade.
only third graders, because that's the only grade right now that we're dealing with that,
Was
with the
affected by the third grade.
third
teaching
grade
law.
retention law. So, is everybody with me? Am I making sense? Okay. Now, does that mean, what does that mean? It just means, hey, we want you to be aware that we notice something, just in case you might want to take a look at the blue letter, which is our summer learning camp letter. Remember I stole yours? I have yours, I'm sorry. So take a look at the blue letter. These are our summer learning camp
I can't read
dates.
without glasses anyway.
So, our summer learning camps, we wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that June 5th through June 30th, 5 days a week, that's a little different than it has been in the past, but it will be 5 days a week, June 5th through 30th. If you received this letter in third grade, this is an option for you. So we wanted to get this out as quickly as possible. I know this is June and we're in January right now, but we wanted parents to be able to prepare. And it lists all of the information that the state requires, that you're 90% attendance, which means it's only 2 absences. And it will be from 7:45 to 1:30, and then from 1:30 until 5:30, we will have after-school care for parents who can't pick their children up at 1:30. They can stay until 5:30. We also went ahead and included some additional important information, some dates, especially parent-teacher conference, our TCAP window. These are so important for all kids, but especially our third graders. So we wanted to make sure that we got this information to parents as quickly as possible. We talked about, there's another one, the third grade promotion policies. So every third grader, regardless of whether you got a green, pink, purple, blue, you got this. Every third grader took this home. So this talks about the new third grade retention law and will my child be retained? What in the world is going on? Especially if your child is approaching or below. There's 2 different categories. Now, what if they are proficient? If they are proficient, they're gone on. So we're not talking about proficient. We're talking about approaching or below. So there's some important information under each of those. Want me to go over all of these?
No, just the highlight.
Okay, just the highlights.
Tell me the difference between what you have to do if you're approaching and then below, because approaching is you have a choice, and below you don't, you got to do both.
Yes, so if your child is approaching on the TCAP this spring, approaching, you have either or. Your child can go to summer learning camp, or I don't want to go to summer learning camp. I'm going to do some tutoring all 4th grade, and it will be some after-school tutoring. Doesn't matter, your child can do either or if your child is approaching. However, if your child is below, they must do both. That's why it's so important for us to get this information out to parents as quickly as possible. Because we want them to understand this is where we are, these are your options, this is how we can support you. So every third grader took this home. Every third grader took home their snapshot, which is the Ames Web, and it's so exciting. I just met with one of my parents, and she came to the third grade, one of the third grade meetings that we did, and she was able to read the report. She said, "Oh my goodness, I see that my child is making growth here and I'm celebrating that, but then I look on the benchmark and I can see that it's not. So should I be concerned? What can I do? Because I want to help my child. So those are the conversations that we're having, and that is what I welcome. If there's a parent out there and you have a question, call to the school, make an appointment. I'm there late most every night, and I will sit down and explain this to you because this is what it's going to take if you have questions. So also, every parent received a benchmark report. So check those folders because I promise it's in there somewhere. If there was a mistake and something wasn't sent home, parents have already been notified. There may have been, I did not get this one, or the teacher has already notified me and notified the parent in the event that that happened. But if you have questions, call, email me. My email is on all of this. Make an appointment and I can help you to understand this. So I know it's a lot of information and it's a lot of colors, but it's so hard to explain this without, my presence being there to do it. So I hope that this information helps parents to kind of understand what they're receiving. Do you have questions? I'm sure it's clear as mud.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
If a third grade parent were to have received this letter, do you have any suggestions for extra things that can be done at home? Any
Okay.
certain practice that you just reading?
It depends on the report. On each child is different.
Okay.
And so we would need to look at the report
Okay.
and go over it. I can give you some suggestions. I can say oral reading fluency across the board has been low for our kiddos. So allow them to read the report to you, to talk to you, allow them to read the newspaper, allow them to read anything that they can read and that you can have a discussion over. Do that. So let your children, not just books. If you're putting together something, let them read the directions. Let them, if you are cooking, let them read the ingredients. Anything that they can read and you can question them and have a discussion, super, super important.
Thank you.
Yes, so.
I don't know that you have the number yet, but I would more than likely bet, knowing you as long as I've known you, that you pretty well know the number in your head before it comes out. How many parents or how many children do you think are receiving this one packet? That
You would ask that. Okay. I am thinking that I have about 112 students and that I probably sent out about 45 of the green papers and about 67 of the salmon colored papers. So, next question. Do you have a next question?
So roughly 55 to 60%.
Okay, so with that, I can't breathe. I start thinking, oh my gosh. So we have a plan. We have already identified these students and we have already set a plan in motion. So what we are doing is we are looking at the universal screener, and those are more of reading skills. So if we see that a kiddo is about at the 40th percentile, we're trucking right along. So we want to continue to support those kids with our reading, our normal reading support. If we see that kiddos are, maybe they're just a couple of questions away on their benchmark, then maybe those kiddos need some additional TCAP, just exposure to the types of questions. It's making sure that they have an understanding, these are the types of questions that you will see, and this is how we can go through, really the test-taking strategies, building those skills. So we set aside kind of two different groups. Some of those kids might be right there and they need a double dose of both. And we have made some clear times in our schedule to address the deficits of the students.
And there's another screener and another benchmark that will be given before TCAP.
Yes, no, there's another benchmark. The screener will be towards the end of the year.
Is that true?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be the best time because we want to allow as much growth for our students on that universal screener as possible to ensure that
Okay.
they're going. What other questions do you have?
Are we still scheduling parent meetings for third grade parents? I know you had several before Christmas.
We had several before Christmas. We have not scheduled any.
I know you'll meet with
right
them
now,
individually. And
yes.
that's actually better because
is.
then you can be specific as towards what their child's,
Yes, bring in your reports so that we can look at it together. And that's what it takes. And parents are, I'm sorry, I hate to, well, I'm here, so let's talk about it because this is important and
and that's the best way to do it. Talk about your specific
your
child.
specific child. Because I don't, it's so hard to just give general. I really like to,
Right.
come in to get to the nitty and the gritty for each child because each child is different.
Any other questions about the packet that we received? Anything else going on at the elementary school?
Yes, we
How do you
have.
think the visit went?
I honestly think that this is one of the best ones that we have had since we have been doing this. I don't know. I guess maybe we've gotten out of practice and back into practice, and I just feel that this went really well. We had a good understanding of some high priority items on our list, and we were able to discuss them and got some great input from our teacher panel. And I feel that, I don't know what changes or if, but I feel that it was perfect. So,
I think we're very fortunate that our state senator and our state representative make the time to come meet with us and actually visit a school and visit several classrooms and then visit with a teacher panel and hear questions and concerns and then they're able to take that back and as they begin to deliberate education laws and things like that. And it really helps that our state senator is the third most powerful senator in the state in the leadership capacity. He's number 3. And so things that he sees that we're able to help him with would only help other schools around the state. So I just think we're very fortunate to have representatives willing to put the time in and come up here and meet with us and do all these things.
absolutely.
I don't know, I hope they all do, but ours have done it for several years and it's just a great thing that they're willing to do that.
Absolutely. Any other questions that you have?
Anybody else have anything for Ms. Badru?
I know that this is not pretty, this is not the,
Well, I
This is
think the main
it's
thing
a lot.
about your presentation and about what all you've been doing is we want to be able to show parents that we're trying to do everything in the world to alert them, to help them, to make them cognizant of this law. I can't say new law because this is the third year it's been in effect, but it's the first year that the consequences are going to be in the effect.
Absolutely.
And it's incumbent upon us as a school system to try to do everything we can to work with our parents, notify our parents, and let them know
Yes.
about it. Regardless of how much effort we put in, there's gonna be someone come around and said, I didn't know.
I didn't
But
know.
we can't, you know, that's always gonna happen. And any parents listening, any parents that hears about this, we don't want it to be that parent. We want all our parents to know.
Absolutely.
And we're willing, you're willing and to go to do whatever it takes to make sure that happens.
Yes.
And we appreciate your efforts in this area.
And I don't want parents to be taken aback by receiving this salmon colored letter. This is, again, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict the future, but all I can do is if there is the slightest possibility that there may be some trouble when it comes to TCAP, I want the parent to know so that they are aware and, you know, maybe just that one more question or just a little, read with your kiddo just a little bit more or whatever the case may be. I want to make sure that parents are aware of that. So I hope that by sending as many salmon colored letters as I sent, that, you know, it's not to make parents mad or to say, you know, this is about, I want to make sure that we have explored all options for your kiddo.
I think we all know that parent involvement in their child's education is extremely important, and it doesn't end at elementary school. It carries over, should carry over to middle school and high school. And I'm sure both those principals would appreciate that involvement as well as their kids' teachers. Thank you, Ms. Bedrew. If nobody has anything else.
Anything else covered? Anything?
I think you did excellent.
Dr. Coon?
All right. Well, I don't have the detailed attendance that Ms. Bedrew does. We have had 3 or 4 cases of COVID since we came back from Christmas. But the biggest culprit is that flu that's going around. It's even hit some of our staff. And even when they came back 2, 3, 4 days later, they were like running 75%. They were like, I'm here, but it's a rough one. So yeah, make sure you guys are watching your hands and all that fun stuff. We've been working on a new partnership with Cumberland University for dual enrollment. We're going to be able to expand our dual enrollment options by double. So instead of only having 4 options, there'll be 8 options next year, which is going to be huge. But then there's the fun of scheduling. And I won't bore you with that. That's kind of like the 3rd grade retention in high school. Let's see, January 10th, shortly after we returned, we had our pre-ACT taken by our 10th graders. Got some good feedback from some of the teachers that a lot of the kiddos worked really hard on that. I had to talk some off at the ledge the day before. Oh my God, if I don't pass this, I'm like, guys, this is just a practice test. It gives you a good idea of where you're going to be at. Don't worry, we've got resources the next couple of years to help you succeed. Tuesday afternoon, Dr. Stricker and I have a meeting with Dr. Satterfield and his team to look at our benchmark data from our Q2 benchmark. We've seen some good growth across the board. We'd like to see some more in some other areas, but we'll dig into that more. This week has been homecoming week, Tuesday pajama day, of course the high school students' favorite day. Wednesday was college day, so wear your favorite college shirt. Today was barbecue dad versus soccer mom, so that was actually really fun. Some kids carrying around coolers, a lot of us wearing aprons. Miss Smith was dressed up like a barbecue sauce bottle, which was hilarious. And tomorrow is purple and gold. Our freshman attendance is Caden Ray and Gage Farley. Sophomore attendant is Kaylee Dunn and TC Rotella. Junior attendance is Zion Bedrew and Coben Calhoun. Senior attendance is Elsie Satterfield and Jalen Cantrell. And our queen is Charlie Joe Dixon. Our king is Brian Banks. Another cool thing with Brian Banks, on February 1st at 1:30, he's gonna sign his national letter of intent to continue playing football at Lindsey Wilson High School. So we're gonna have a nice celebration with, hopefully a coach from Lindsey Wilson, Coach Satterfield, Brian's family, the football team, tons of pictures, cake, and all of that good stuff, so that'll be fun.
That's great.
February 7th, we have our upcoming move to stand. I believe the gentleman said it's building a legacy is what they're kind of shooting for this, the theme on this. And it's to help the program continue from year to year to year, so it doesn't just fizzle out after this year. So it'll be interesting to see what that legacy plan looks like. That's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Cunningham? Thanks, sir.
Lizzie is under the weather, so we won't have her.
Okay. When you said flu, though, is it the flu, or is it that stomach flu-like thing that Demetrius is talking about?
It's a range of both.
Just both?
Yeah.
That's tough stuff, I hear. All right, next is our director's report. Dr. Satterfield?
Thank you. I'll try to move as quickly as possible. First of all, I think that you have in front of you the employment notifications for this month. We had a resignation from a special ed assistant at the high school last semester. We found Shante Gilbert, and we feel very fortunate about that. She's a great person, and she's doing a wonderful job. So we're really glad to have her there at the high school. We also, that's incorrect, Marion Farrell, that it says substitute teacher, actually, she is a cook. That's incorrect. She is a cook at the high school. And then Joanne Hampton is a cook at the elementary school. We've actually had 2 cooks. One spot we've had trouble filling, and then the other one, I had 2 applicants, and actually, I think they're pretty strong, and they're working now, so. Now, the big thing that we had was that, as you know, we've had some bus drivers go down, someone's had some surgeries and that type of thing, but we literally had a certified bus driver walk in our door a week ago Monday. And he drove for Wilson County. He's moved to Trousdale, and he was looking for employment and was wondering if we had anything open. And I said, today's your lucky day.
Did the sun shine?
Yes.
Sure, I mean, that's like miraculous about it.
And
That's a belated
and
Christmas.
Mr. Cothran has been working with him this week. You know, they've been driving together and learning the route, and he has no trouble driving. He says, you can tell he's an experienced bus driver. So what we're going to do, beginning on Monday, the route that we had consolidated 4 and 12, we're going to put that back to normal. And if we hadn't had another medical event with one of our drivers, we would have actually been able to do that with the combined route of 16 and 18. But we had a driver that had a health event, and I don't know when and where we can change that, but we would certainly like to. But that driver is doing a real good job with that combination route, so we make that stay. So that's what I have on employment notifications. Of course, I talked to you a minute ago about our teachers of the year. One of the things that I think is important that might not have been brought up this evening is the impact of absenteeism on learning. There's a lot of research. If a teacher misses more than 7 days of school, it's equivalent to having a first-year teacher in the classroom. Another thing is, and we're talking about early grade literacy, that we know that there's a national trend. If you put it kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade, all the way to 12th, and you get a bar graph, then absenteeism would look like a smiley face. We see absenteeism high in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, dwindles, third, fourth, fifth, levels out. Then all of a sudden, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, starts to spike again. One of the things that we've done, and she's talked to you about, we looked at their screener data, and then we looked at their benchmark data, and then we laid in there what we call our chronic absenteeism watch list. These are students who, if they continue on the same trend this year, then they would be chronically absent at the end of the year. And what we see, and it's not a definite trend, but what we see, a lot of the students who are getting that pink letter have high absenteeism. So the idea is the problems that we're seeing in reading, is it because of nature or instruction or nurture? But it's very hard to teach students when they're not in school every day. Ms. Petty, you asked a question, is anything parents can do at home? One of the things I would tell parents is, please, 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 have your child in school each and every day. That's one of the most important things that you can do for a child. We have some great teachers, but it's hard to teach children who are not there. I know we have health events and those types of things, but one of the things is to try to encourage families to have their child at school each and every day so that we can work with that child to prevent what Ms. Bedrew was talking about, because she said that about 60% of our third graders got that pink letter. Now, I don't think we're going to have 67 students that's going to have to repeat the third grade. And she erred on the side of caution. She said if they met any trigger, either one, the screener trigger or the benchmark trigger, we're letting you know. And I think she should be commended for being honest with parents. And one of the things I've always talked to my family about, and all the people I've ever worked with and coached with, is do what's difficult while it's still time. You know, that's a hard conversation for her to send that pink letter out to parents. It would be a whole lot easier for her to sugarcoat it and tell everybody it's all right, and then we get to the end, nobody ever told me. So the thing is, I would appreciate, if I was a parent, I'd really appreciate Ms. Bedrew's courage with being honest with me and then giving me an opportunity to do those things you're asking about. What can I do? What can we do now to prevent this issue that might occur in May? Now, I think what's important is, and she didn't talk much about this, is that on that universal reading screen, Ms. Curry, you asked, we will take that before TCAP. And she said, no, it comes after TCAP. The reason it comes after TCAP is we want to be able to work with that student as long as we can up to the end of school. Does that make sense? We want to provide as much instructional time with that child. We can't control TCAP. They tell us when that window is. Right. But we stuck that universal reading screener as late in the school year as we could to give our teachers and students and parents as much time as they can. Because here's the thing about the universal reading screener. And I've said this to you, but I want to be sure everybody gets this in their vernacular, is the state tells us that when a parent does an appeal, and parents can appeal their TCAP score to the directly online themselves to the Department of Education, and the department tells us, when you look at that bar graph, Ms. Petty, you got that for a second? Because I know you went to our training, right?
I did.
Apparently,
I got a Salmon letter today too.
right. So what I'm saying is, when you look at that universal reading screener, you know, you can tell what they need to do, and a lot of them is ORF, oral reading fluency, and just reading with your child and making the fun of that, it will really help them. But that's the one that they'll be low in most of the time. But here's what the state is telling us. And if you look at that letter that's got the bar graphs on, over there it tells you what the national percent rating is. And the state tells us if it's 40 or more, and you can grant an appeal. Let's say they just flunked the TCAP test. They're in the below category. But in on that universal reading screener, they're in the 40, 41st, 42nd, they're 40 and above on the universal reading screener, then you grant an appeal and the state will grant your appeal within 2 days or less. Okay, you hear that? So that's one of the reasons we waited this
But
last.
the parent has to appeal.
The parent has to
School
appeal.
can't do it for them.
No, but we're gonna help.
Okay, I knew that,
And
but,
what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a countywide appeal day on June,
okay.
on the 7th of June. And we're gonna do it during summer learning camp. And if you'll come that day, we'll get you the student number, we'll get you the address, and we'll show you, we'll walk you through it. But we will not leave you stranded. So and that's on our calendar as well. So that's really important for us to do that. The next thing is that, we were talking about attendance, all you principals talk about attendance. We're up about 66 students from a year before last, 2020. Last year was a little, it spiked a little bit, but now we've lost some. But we see the most gains of right now, we're seeing about 36 more students in the elementary school than we saw this time last year. We're seeing about 43 more than we did in the middle school last year, but we have the exact same number in the middle school that we did 2 years ago. So they dropped, and then we picked them up, so that goes about for null. And then at the high school, we've got about 21 more students than we had last year, which is a net of about 66, which is good growth. It's not too fast. We can handle those types of things. I feel comfortable about that. On the third grade retention law, just to pick that up, is remember that that's only for third grade. And the people listening that's not a Clint rule. That's not a Board of Education rule. That is a Tennessee legislature law that we all in this room have no control over other than trying to work together with our families to do the best we can to get those children over the threshold. And that's what we're going to continue to do. And you can tell that this lady right here has spent a great deal of time doing that, notified, and having the courage to tell those parents what they need to know. I really, really, really appreciate that. The other thing is, if you got that pink letter, I would advise you to look at the blue letter and to register for summer camp ASAP. And if your child passes the TCAP at the end, you don't have to come. You can take a line. If they grant an appeal, but they can't grant the appeal to the 7th of June, and the camp starts on the 7th, so we might go a couple of days. But if we win that appeal, take them home, take them to the pool. But I would get them registered. I'm gonna tell you something. Our parents, we've got some really, really good parents. We opened registration up today, and by lunch, we had 60 parents that had registered their kids. Now, that's grades 1 through 8.
How many?
60.
60?
60 parents.
That's great.
They had registered 60 kids by lunch. And after we sent out the text this afternoon, we had 30 more. So when Amanda left today, she said we got 90 families that signed up for summer learning camp. I'd like to meet those 90 parents of those students because there's some communication that's gone out well. Does that make sense? There's another thing is that I think we've done summer learning camp well for the past 2 years that they have confidence to it. Do you know who the first parent to register their kids for summer learning camp was? I had nothing to do with it. Whitney Dillahay was the first one to register 2 boys. And so I have to tell her how proud I am of her. But I thought that was great. Remember, parents, and Ms. Bedrew said this, was that the summer learning camp is 5 days a week now. But it's only for 4 weeks. It's for 4 weeks, 5 days, 20 days, and they have to, the law says this, they have to attend 90% of the time. Ms. Bedrew said they couldn't miss more than twice. So we got to be sure that we block that out on our calendar. Another thing is that there's going to be an ELA retake. So for all the students who are in the approaching category, they get to take the ELA portion of the TCAP. They say it takes about an hour and we'll have results in 2 days. So the first thing we're gonna do in learning camp on June the 5th is what? We're gonna do a ELA retake. It's the first thing we're gonna do, first day. So we get scores back in 2 to 3 days. So by Wednesday or Thursday, what? Hey, you can go home.
We're confident the state's gonna have the scores back in time.
I'm just telling you what they said.
That has not been my experience with the state.
No, I'm just telling you, that's what we've been told. Another thing is we're gonna do the appeal on Wednesday, June the 7th, so we can get that done. Now, another thing is you're asking, why did we pick those dates? Those dates are the back end of the window. We're trying to give this thing as much time as we can. Because there's 2 weeks between the end of school and the time to start summer learning camp. We polled our teachers and we asked them how they wanted to do that. And we've had a great group of teachers to sign up. Ms. Cothran gave me that list today, so we'll be building that out in the couple of weeks to come. The other thing that I don't know if Ms. Drew, she talked about tutoring. One of the things when you read in that color page about these are the approaching, these are the below, and if you're approaching, you've got a choice. You can go to summer learning camp, or you can be promoted to the 4th grade. You say, I'll take promotion, and then I'm going to go to the 4th grade, and I'm going to do tutoring all year long. It sounds good. But the law also says if you don't do the tutoring all year long, and you don't show adequate progress, then the retention comes in the 4th grade. So just be careful, parents, don't kick a can down the road. Now, if you are in the below proficiency scale, you have to do what, Ms. Bodie?
Both.
You have to do both. You have to go to the summer learning camp, and you have to go to the all-core tutoring. And another thing is we're going to put our tutoring in our leaps after school because we don't have enough time during the day. Because we're taking kids out 30 minutes a day for tutoring, then we're taking them out of math class, reading class, and we're kind of like cutting their nose off to spite our face. So we want to get additional time. Now, the law also says they only have to do it for 30 minutes for a minimum of 2 times. So they wouldn't have to come to after school every day. They would just need to do it a couple of afternoons in a week. So, and we want to be very strategic about who those teachers are and the curriculum and the materials that they use. So one of the things is when we do the tutoring program, the after school team won't run it. Our principals and our instructional people will run that portion of the leaps after school. So we want to be sure that those interventions are real high quality. Dr. Kuhn talked about our partnership with Coleman University. We're really excited about that. One of the things that he didn't say, and that I know why he didn't, is because he's got a super puzzle to work out. But I have found Dr. Kuhn to be the scheduling guru. He brings one great skill to us, I mean several great skills, but one of them is scheduling. And he's really good with power school.
The only piece that I'm getting out of this is high blood pressure.
You're doing well, Doc. You're doing very well. But one of the things we want to announce now, and I told this to them in a meeting this week, is we are going to do early college with Coleman, and we're going to begin that with this year's 8th graders, which will be the class of 2027. So when those students get to be juniors, they will have the option of going to Coleman University and being a college student while they're enrolled in high school. Now, there's a tuition. I think they have to pay, like right now, $1,700 a semester. They have to provide their own transportation, and they literally will be going to Coleman University every day. What we understand, that if they play sports or athletics or something like that, they let them out at 1 or so, and they can still get back and do those types of things. So they don't have to give up their extracurriculars. But we are really, really excited, and that's one of the reasons that we went with Coleman University, is the opportunity to do early college. Lot of work in the Grow Your Own Teacher apprenticeship. We are now working with the state of Tennessee. We are working with Coleman University, trying to sculpture how we want to do this with the Tennessee Department of Labor. And when we get this thing running right, our students will be involved in a TAP program, which teaches in a profession pathway. They will be tracked to go to Coleman University. And part of this is we have to pay them as an apprentice. They would go to school like on Mondays. The classes on Tuesday and Thursday, and they would work in our schools on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have to pay them like we would an EA. They'd be an apprentice. Coming into the grant would pay for all their tuition. And part of this apprenticeship is, the stipulation is that it is no cost to the apprentice, no cost. So they are trained to be a teacher for 4 years. They have no debt, and they go right into education. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? So this process is tough. We've learned some things. I think they changed some rules along the way, but we're really excited about that. Another thing I talked to you about in the work session the other night is we got a Spark grant. I don't know exactly what that acronym stands for, but we have a TCAT bridge coach. Shelley Cook is going to do that. She works really good, but she's going to work with the students who are going to TCAT. She's going to work with TCAT, and the goal is to bridge them from graduation to stay with TCAT, and get their industrial certifications and certificates and those types of things, where they'll have a credentialing shortly after graduation. Dr. Coon, we've spent a great deal of time this week on the new state universal grading policy. And one of the things that it says that you passed a policy last spring that we had to move to a 10-point grading scale. Do you remember that? It used to be like 93 to 100 was an A. Well, the state says you got to do it in 10 increments. So
Really like it used to be.
yeah, so, it's 80 to 90, 90 to 100 be an A, that type of thing. And also how you award extra percentage points. So if a student is taking an AP course and they sit for the exam, they get 5 extra percentage points added to their grade. And if they are doing dual enrollment, they get 4. And if they're in a class that has an industrial certification and they sit for the test, they get 4 points. So as you can see, it gives them an opportunity to raise their GPA. The state law and the universal grading policy now says that we have to do it this way and list that on their transcript as their Hope Scholarship GPA. So all of our students' grades will be weighted for dual enrollment, advanced placement, and industrial certification starting with this year's group of seniors. So I think it's an advantage to the students, because the higher their grade, the better chance they've got of getting the Hope Scholarship, and that's worth over $16,000 a year. So I'm really excited about that.
To clarify, because a lot of the question was, well, okay, if they're weighted, do we need to change to a weighted grading scale that goes above the 4.0? We do not. So let's say a student in AP Calculus would have to be brilliant, but got 100%. They sat for the test. Yes, their final score is going to be 105%, but their GPA is capped at 4.0. It doesn't get 4.15. Something to that effect.
And that's part of the law of the universal grading policy. Lastly is this. She talked to you about TNTP National Research. Is coming for their last visit the last week of February, correct? Like February the 26th, 27th through March the 3rd. And one of the things is that we need a little help is parents had to sign a consent if their child could be observed, be interviewed, that type of thing. Presently, we've got 17 or 18 students. We would like to have over 20. We just need a few more. And a lot of those letters went out to parents, but they didn't get back. So one of the things that parents are listening, these are parents in grades 3 through 5, by the way. We're going to be sending out another communication. We're going to be sending out a text to them to remind them to try to do that. They're also going to have parent interviews that week. And we're going to do it at various times, like in the morning, middle of the day, late in the afternoon, so parents can come in and they can interview them. So that will be really important. So, and another thing is they're going to do student interviews, and if the students will interview with them, if they let them talk to their students, they're going to give them a pizza party. So they get free pizza. So you might, I don't know if your child, they pick children at random. So all the children need to be picked. But if your child got picked at random and they send a letter home and you send it back and give them permission, then they're going to interview them and they're going to let them eat pizza during that time. So don't deny your child a piece of pizza, you know. But Mr. Kerr, unless y'all got any questions, that's all I have.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Satterfield?
I have a question related to the new grading system. So how is that gonna work for your top 10? You're gonna have,
Well, and that was what we were really trying to figure out is, do we need to adjust for that? And we don't. Cause reading the state law on it is kind of like stereo instructions in 100 years. It's hard to understand, so Dr. Satterfield came over 2-3 times this week. I pulled in both my counselors, Ms. Cook, Dr. Stricker, and we just hashed it out. But the weighted grade shouldn't impact the top 10. It'll still be fair and consistent.
But the state law says we have to weigh grades.
yeah, I just wondered how that was gonna work out.
Any other questions for Dr. Satterfield? Okay. Moving on to new business. First item, 6A, is the elementary school roof replacement. We have been discussing this for a few months now. I'm assuming that part of that is why John's here tonight, possibly. But we met with, two companies that came in and gave us presentations. A-Alert was the metal roof company that came. And I have to say, it's been a while. I don't remember the name of the company that came in and told us about the
Spray foam.
spray foam roof. But both of those companies came in and gave us a good, long presentation about what their roof can do and all the things with it. And we've had plenty of stuff to read about this. Dr. Satterfield, do you have anything you'd like to add as to the roofs?
Other than just reframing this, you know, we did an architectural study. You know, one of the things was, you know, the former mayor and the former chairman of the commission, you know, advised that we probably need to sue the original installer, which was Dow Corning, some 25, 26 years ago. So we hired a private architect, Rinks and Associates, to study that. He made some suggestions about what you ought to do with your roof. He kind of went out of bounds a little bit on making that one. We didn't really ask him that. But what we did ask him was, did we think was litigation a legitimate option? And he gave us a resounding, no, it was not. Therefore, you had IRC to come in and demonstrate their roofing system. I think you call that a puff roof, Mr. Atwood, sometimes, puff roof. And then also the pitch metal roof that we put on the middle school. So those are the two products that you had, and also the recommendations from the private architect as well. One of the reasons that I'm trying to encourage the board to make a decision as soon as possible is it's about to turn into budget time. And at some point in time, we've got to make some decisions, and we got to match our wants with our budget. And that's why I asked for you to make a decision on that. And then if you do, then you have to have an architect, and that's actually your next agenda item.
Okay, and we discussed this at length Tuesday night, as well as many other nights as both companies were in and talked to us and everything. We've had several conversations about this. Discussion? Anybody has some discussion points they'd like to make about either company or about what type roof or anything? Okay. Hearing none, someone ready to make a motion then?
Mr. Kirk, may I also add,
Sure.
do you want the 6-to-1 slope or the 12-to-1 slope?
Whoever makes that motion can put
Okay.
that in their motion.
I make a motion to go with the metal roof on 12-1.
Okay,
I'll second his motion.
okay. Have a motion by Mr. Atwood to go with the metal roof, which would be A-Alert Roofing, to replace the elementary school roof and to do it at the 12-1 ratio, which was explained to us during their presentation. And that is the same slope that's on the middle school roof, so we know what we're getting. And A-Alert is actually the same company that did the middle school roof, so we have experience in working with that company. And we have a second on that by Ms. Peggy.
I'm
Sure.
sorry.
We're back to discussion.
Yeah, well, I just want to be sure that, the recommended motion that I had, and I want to be sure that squares what Mr. Atwood is asking for, is the A-Alert Roofing to replace the middle school roof contingent upon
The elementary school
funding in the FY '23 budget.
The elementary school roof, you said middle school.
Did I say, well,
You
it
did,
says
I just-
elementary, yeah.
I didn't know if the
Yeah,
camera
it's-
can see
yeah,
that.
excuse me, to replace the elementary school roof contingent upon FY '23 funding.
Is that from
Trick, and that's exactly where we're at.
Okay. All right, so does everybody understand what we're about to vote for? We have a motion and we have a second. Any other, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Atwood made the motion?
Yes, sir. Mr. Atwood, Ms. Petty seconded.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Does pass unanimously, Dr. Satterfield.
That's a big step.
Next, 6B is architectural projects. We talked a little bit about this on Tuesday, and so I'm gonna go to Dr. Satterfield to remind us what all this item is about.
Actually, CTC Design Collaborative is a new architectural outfit, and it's started by John Cheney. He used to work for Coke Architects. He's done many projects for us over these many years. He's also done work for the county. I know some of the board members are, a little new, but I'll have to say that he has been very respected by our board over these many years. John is here tonight, and I think it would be worth your while to maybe let him address
I agree.
the group.
When you're through,
Okay,
you finished?
yes, sir, that's all I have.
All right, Dr. Satterfield, John is here. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back with the board tonight. And CTC is a new firm. Myself and two colleagues have ventured out on our own, and I've probably been involved with probably 8 or 9 projects here in the county over the last 10, 12 years. Macon County, Wilson County, other counties close by. I've been doing this for 30 plus years for other people, and now I'm trying on my own. So.
I guess you found out it's everybody wants to be their own boss. It's not what it's made out to be.
Well, it's not, and I realize that, but having 3 daughters that are now out of the house, college tuition, and it just seemed like the right time to venture out. So looking forward to working.
That's a great
On all
milestone to
projects.
reach, I tell you. I enjoyed it when mine got out. Anybody have any questions for John? Ms. Towns and I have been here when projects he's had. Deanna was at the elementary school with projects that he's had. And Rachel, you or Robbie have any questions for John?
Nope.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Yes, thank you very much.
So, basically, Dr. Satterfield, well, why don't you give us, do you have a recommendation you'd like to make?
I do, and we have gone over these. First of all, you have already elected to go to the metal roof.
Right.
That was your first agenda item. You'll have to have an architect you have to have approved fire marshal plans. So even though ALR's gonna put it on, you still gotta have architectural drawings and stuff, so you have to have an architect. So first of all, we need John to do what you just voted to do. The next one is that we've talked about restrooms. We've spent a lot of time on restrooms. We are working on our restrooms at the baseball and softball field. We also have a question about, not a question, but a major issue about restrooms at the football stadium. They're constantly stopping up game after game now. And we have talked about wanting to renovate those restrooms and make them all handicap accessible, increase the capacity of those restrooms. But in order to do that, we've got to cut the floor of that building and redesign it. It's gonna take some time. It's also gonna move the high school out of their dressing room space. And so the idea is to build a new football field house out on high ground, up toward the road, up at where those trees are, 7,200 square feet. We've got it sketched out on graph paper, everybody's seen that. And then asking John to build architectural plans for that field house so that we can put it out for bid to see how much it would cost. But until we have architectural plans, we
Just be
can't,
guessing.
we're just guessing and we don't have anything. And until we move them out of that facility, we can't fix those restrooms. So this is just a first step in a process to repair those restrooms. The ultimate goal is to fix those restrooms. So that's what that is. The last one is that we've spent a lot of time and should on school safety. But one of the things that we have noticed is we really don't have a quick, accessible blueprint to tell us exactly where everything is in case of emergency. So one of the things we want to do is get a one-page blueprint that tells us where all of our shutoffs are, electrical, gas, water, and also they would number all of our doors, well, we've already got our doors numbered, but all of our windows, all of our entrance and exit doors, put them on a blueprint page and have that available for emergency management, police force in case there's a quick emergency. I think it's instrumental that we do that. John can do that, but just taking our floor plans, putting them together and making emergency floor plans for us. So those are the three things that I'd like for you to authorize CDC Design Collaborative to get started on upon your approval, if you wish.
Okay. So we need an architect. Dr. Satterfield is recommending CTC Design Collaborative, which is John and his company, to do this. We have 3 projects. We have approved one, the elementary roof. And in order to get knowledgeable numbers or accurate numbers as far as the field house goes, because it has to come first. You have to move out before you redo the restrooms. He would have to, the company would, whoever we hire would have to do that so we could take bids to know what kind of money we're talking about. And then, of course, the school emergency floor plan, out of all 3 of those, is probably the most critical as far as safety and things like that go, because you never know when a safety incident is going to happen. Any discussion, questions for Dr. Satterfield or John?
Presently, our floor plans look like this. We would like to improve upon it.
Any questions? If not, hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to employ CTC,
CTC Design Collaborative.
yeah, architecture firm to do the
The 3 projects that were listed. I'm not trying to speak for you.
no, it's fine.
Okay. So I have a motion by Ms. Towns to hire CTC Design Collaborative to develop architectural plans for the elementary school roof, football field house, and the school safety floor plan. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Motion by Ms. Towns, second by Ms. Bodie. Discussion? Any other discussion, questions, or whatever?
I might just say, I mean, he comes highly recommended, and we've talked about it at length,
Mhm.
and so,
It's time to get moving, isn't it? That's the way that would be my comment, it's time to get going. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. It does pass unanimously. We have hired CTC Design Collaborative to develop and work on those 3 projects for us.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Next is item 6C, policy 2.806, which is bids and quotations. We talked about this at length the other night. The State Comptroller's Office has given us the option to increase the amount of money it takes before things have to go out for bid and that type of thing. Up to, they've given us permission to go up to $25,000. And that's what we discussed Tuesday night. Angie is here, and I know that she probably would like to say something about this and answer any questions that any board member may have. Dr. Satterfield, would you like to say anything about this first?
I don't think I can say anything better than our CFO Angie would say, but the idea is that you're increasing that threshold to a place where you don't have to take formal bids, do formal bid openings. And a lot of times, that slows down the process when you're trying to do certain projects. It's still, those monies have to be approved by the board. They have to be in your budget. If they're not, they're gonna come back to you and do a budget amendment. So I believe that you still have oversight in those purchases. You know, the question is that the amount or not of oversight that you want? And Angie.
If I'm not mistaken, do not most school systems have the authority to go up to 50,000?
If they have a full-time purchasing agent.
Which a lot of the smaller ones like us probably don't.
Right.
But the larger ones, larger school systems probably do, so it's, okay.
And there's a segregation of duties, and you can see in that email exchange with the auditor that she had, that they said the director can't buy it. You know, you have to have a purchasing agent, and you do. Mr. Coffin does that. Angie's not buying it, she's the CFO. So, you got the director that's signing the purchase order. You got the CFO that's approving the purchase. You got somebody else making it, so there's some type of segregation of duties there. So it's not one person unilaterally making these types of decisions. It's gotta be in your budget. If it's not, it's gotta be a budget amendment, it's gotta be coming to you. I don't think I can say anything better than Angie could.
Well, we'll turn it over to Angie while she's coming up here. Please come to the podium. Again, I think one of the key things to remember that Dr. Satterfield said, and we said it on Tuesday night also to remember, is regardless, the board's gonna have the last say, because you can't build anything or you can't buy anything unless you got the money in the budget to do it. And we're the ones that put the money in the budget and approve what line items and all that, where they go. Angie?
I was just gonna reiterate the point that it is a time-saving measure. Sometimes we have to run the bid notice for a week, sometimes it's 2, and then we have to set a bid opening date a week after that at least. So you're looking at 3 weeks for most of those projects. And a lot of times we don't even get responses to our bid notices anyway, and we have to go solicit those bids after the fact. So it's just really a time-saving measure
Okay.
and paperwork.
And how many times have you done it in the past 4 months?
In the past 4 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Probably, within this school year, I would say we've done it at least 5 to 6 times. I'd have to go pull the files to be sure, but 5 or 6 times.
Out of those 5 to 6 times, if the threshold had already been moved up to 25,000, do you have a ballpark as to,
I would say half. But
so
I'll
it would have
look
cut
back to
about
see.
half,
I would
roughly,
have cut 2 out.
roughly.
Right.
Now, those are measures that the boards had to approve, just like Dr. Satterfield said the other night, talking about the truck. I mean, that's what we're dealing with.
Right,
Now, that's the only one that has come in since September that's had to been brought before the board.
right. Because the others were in the budget.
So, I mean, it's only one time in 4 months, is that right, Miss
I
Angie?
have to go back and look.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I went back and read, I got a little more time than a lot of you do. And I went back and read it, and I believe the way I read the policy, if it's a capital purchase, such as a vehicle, building, major contracts, then it's still, I don't think you can do it that way. That's the way I read it. So I'm not sure, I think
Which way are you talking about?
Huh?
What do you mean by which?
Like, I don't think that applies in the $25,000. Well, you can pull the policy up and look at it, but I just don't think it does, because it said that there's special it's in line 24. Special purchases, and I may misread it, but there's some things, and I just said that to clarify, not to create controversy.
No, I mean, you've got a very good question, and we want to be clear on, I want every board member to be clear and, you know, have all the information they need.
That's the
before
way
we
I
vote.
understood it, I don't think.
No, I think that's a great question.
Line what?
It's line, yeah, 24. Line 24.
I only got 19 lines on mine.
Well, I looked it up on your website.
Can you show him your copy? You have a
No,
copy?
I just wrote down.
Oh, okay, you
It's
just took
policy
notes.
2.805.
Oh, it's line 24 of that policy.
It's
Claire.
line 24, that
You
policy.
might not
I
have
don't
it.
have it, I got
Well,
28,
we've got that
2.806.
whole thing we're supposed to be approving tonight. I mean, that it was in consent. So I just read the whole thing. I don't know, don't worry about me. I'm good. Sorry about that. But I'm just saying, I don't think.
You're saying that you don't think that
I don't think that
vehicle-
truck would have fit in the thing anyway, is what I don't think. Because it says that capital purchases such as vehicles, and that they require prior approval by the board. And even though it was a used truck, because I saw where you asked her how they should depreciate it, she said it's new to you.
Yeah.
And you depreciate it just like it was a brand new one. So that's what I'm saying. And I might be wrong. I mean, I've been wrong about a lot.
No,
But
you're right.
I do have a lot of time to read.
What is good is I hear that we didn't make a mistake on
No.
the purchase of the truck.
No, you
That's good.
didn't. You didn't.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
No, because we approved it in a budget
We
amendment, that type of
we
thing.
did, and the only reason I said that is because Robbie said it come up because of the truck. Well, I think that's an outlier.
Had to come up
It
anyways.
was gonna have to come up anyway. That's the reason I said what I said.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is, as a matter of fact, I mean, since April, when I started coming last year, the truck is the only thing that has ever come up. I mean, I know Miss Angie said there's 4 or 5. That's what I'm asking, is how many times does this practice take place, okay? So, it's only took once since April that Dr. Satterfield brought it to the board, that, and y'all two handled it, it wasn't brought before the board, and we understood that, and everybody here agreed. You understand what I'm saying? So, once in that amount of time, I don't see that it's that big of a deal.
It's been quite a few, I can pull.
Pull them up for us, we'd love to see them.
Things she put out on bid, I'm guessing, Robbie. There were several things she put out on bid.
Right.
That's what
Especially
it is.
last
So
year.
things have to be put out on bid that are already in the budget.
Over
Don't have to be
$10,000.
presented to the board for approval,
Right.
correct?
It's already in the budget, you approve the
Once
budget.
once we approve the budget,
Okay.
anything that's approved.
That's in there,
the
is
budget
gone, correct?
Right, that's
So
already
because
been
the truck
approved.
wasn't in the budget, that's why.
Right, so who
Right, exactly, and that's what we're discussing right now.
Right.
10, 11, I believe is what I've got.
Since,
1, 2,
But
and it includes like, your parking lot paving at the high school, your short throw projectors that were purchased in July, Chromebook charge carts, security camera bids, all the weight equipment that we purchased for the JSMS, fitness room.
that's the one that it would have covered. The rest of it wouldn't have covered yet, am I correct? Ms.
No,
Williams?
Projectors.
No, it would've covered those
projectors,
others.
It wouldn't have covered the parking lot paving, 25,000 ain't gonna
Oh,
cover it.
no, it still would
That's
have.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Of the amount of money you're discussing,
would have fallen in that range.
Correct. Would have been the
25,000 or
workout
less. I see what you're saying.
policy, which, that was brought in, it was in his category, was just moved
I
around.
see what you're saying.
Right.
You know, we didn't have to take bids or approve it.
Right.
The
I
parking lot was going one line item to the
I
next.
see what you're saying.
The parking lot was more than 25 grand.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, it would come, it's gonna come to you.
And that's what he's saying, how
That's
many
what I'm saying, is
projects would have fallen in
everything
that
that she has
range
named
of
so
0 to
far,
25?
only one being the workout equipment, if we bumped it up to 25,000, would it have covered? But when it was brought to the board, you had money here and you moved it here to cover it, okay? It slid right into the consent agenda and nobody ever said anything. There was never a vote or anything on it. We declared it
It
by
was
that,
fully
you
approved
see what I'm
consent
saying?
agenda.
So of everything that she said, 25,000 would only cover one.
No, it would have covered the short throw projectors, the projectors, that were done in September and July. We got Chromebook charge carts that it would have covered. They were all those were under 20. It would not have covered the Chromebooks there. The work for that, the handicap, let's see, no, that's not it. Of course, the fitness equipment. But that, yeah, just those three.
how much
Those
time?
three is what it would have covered.
1, 2, 3, yes,
Those three are the ones that it would have covered.
yes.
How much
So-
time?
Actually, 4.
How much time do one of those folders take you?
Well, not, a little bit out of every day for, a few weeks. From bid notice to, the bid opening.
Okay.
To
And
bring
that's
it out to
this-
the board.
That's since this July 1st?
Yes.
Since our new budget year started?
Yes.
Okay. So 4 items
Right.
since this budget year started. Okay. Questions?
Mr. Gray, did you not say it was common practice for most districts to, the level is 50,000?
I,
Do you have
I
a
don't know
full-time
what it
purchasing
is.
agent?
Yeah.
They have,
I mean, I would say most districts have a full-time purchasing.
You're bigger.
do your bigger
Yes, I
districts.
don't know.
I'd say a lot of your upper Cumberland districts, which we're in and stuff, obviously Cookville, I'm sure probably Putnam County would have one. Macon is a big county, but I don't know if they have one or not, but they're a pretty big county, but I would think most of them are like us and,
I just know Wilson and Sumner do.
well, yeah, I mean, they're huge. They're past big, they're huge.
I mean,
But just because they're bigger, they have the same, measures in place of,
They have the
You know,
same
that's three.
requirements that we do.
exactly, that you have purchasing, agents and your CFO and your director. I mean, they're larger than us, but they have the same checks and balances that we do.
Exactly.
correct, and even your own county here, theirs is 10,000.
Right.
Now, we're talking county, we're not talking about the school system.
Right.
We're talking about your county government, it's
Right.
10,000.
Tribal county.
So,
The legislature just made this available in their session in May of this year.
Oh, so this is something
it's
new.
new.
Oh, okay, okay. So we have a new mayor, he may not have had to look at that yet. Or Amy may not have brought it to his attention yet.
I'm all about, helping people do their job easier. I am, all about it. And I would, if it were my money, I would trust Angie with it. she can just have my checkbook, and I would trust her with it. Now, I'm gonna say something else here, and I don't, we're in a little different situation. We're dealing not with my money or your money, but we're dealing with all of our money plus all the taxpayers' money. And, you know, there is somewhat of a perceived, and I'm gonna say perceived, transparency issue with some people at some times, not with Angie, but I'm just saying. And I think we might be better. I think right now, we're not talking about a ton of volume of work, but I would be open to this if the county changes theirs. But I don't know. I'm not 100% sure it's the right way to go, just from a perceived transparency.
Okay.
Now, if it was a corporation and you had all corporate people here saying, let's do this, I'd say, let's do it.
How do you think, one
I
thing.
have no
I think-
issues with.
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering, do you have suggestions or ways where we could increase our transparency? I mean, how could we,
I think one was last night that you started, and I think it would be the next agenda item, was one to increase transparency. You know, we could have slid that right through and never acted like we cared about anybody. You know, but the more discussion that takes place here, the better our school system is going to be. And that is just as much as transparent as you can be. Am I correct, Ms. Towns?
it is, but I
It
don't
is.
know of anything that would decrease we're still gonna have to discuss it. Every project that comes up is gonna have to
We
be.
are, and
So can I ask just?
But this ain't necessarily projects. I mean, you can, when you move that threshold to 25,000, this ain't projects. You know what I'm saying? You're moving the threshold, a project is anything over 10,000 at this point in time. You know, when you move that 25,000 up there, you're cutting out everything below it, okay? And that's a lot of money to be in anybody's hands, I'm sorry, even mine. And I'm just like Miss Towns, I'm not saying anybody here, especially Angie or anybody, not taking any of that away. But, like I say, your own county government is 10,000. And, you know, after 10,000, you're getting bids and blah, 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 you know. And we're only talking about 4 things that it would cover. How many did you have altogether, Miss Angie?
I think it's 10 or 11.
Okay, so she's got 11, and only 4 items would, if you change this right here, would it take care of?
Okay.
And by taking care of means you could go ahead and purchase it as long as the money was in the budget without having to,
Or we
Put
did
it
a
out
budget
to bid
amendment or something.
without having to put it out to bid and go through that whole
Right,
process. Okay.
Which, by the way, is what she's trying to say, I think,
That's
is
time
the
consuming.
timeliness of it. You know, I think I heard her say some items like computers, short throw projectors that they use in classrooms.
But it wouldn't have covered none of them, she said.
No, it would, those were 2 of the
Oh,
projects.
that's the one that would've
What I'm saying, those are
Those folks.
instructional items that we're buying during the summer and trying to get them installed into classrooms. And we can't purchase those things until July 1 when we get our new budget. So all of a sudden it's adding another 3 weeks. And we're trying to get
every
schools
school
ready.
district orders their stuff on
Eh,
July 1.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
wanna be your first one that gets your order
To
in.
that
I
company.
mean, Chromebooks, that's how we got our Chromebooks when
We have a
everybody was
technology
short.
department of 2.
That's right.
And they have to install those in those classrooms.
So I have another question, I'm sorry. So if you needed a copier that was $18,000, you could just go ahead and, if it was in the budget, you could just go ahead and purchase it without having But you could purchase it from whatever store you wanted to without checking
No,
prices?
we have to still get quotes.
Okay,
We still have to get at least
Anything
3
over
quotes.
$500.
Yeah,
Anything over 500.
okay.
and we have to put that in with the purchase and we get audited. You know, you just can't go out and just buy something.
Not from your buddy?
Okay.
Exactly, you gotta have 3
That's a good-
competitive quotes
Okay.
on
This
everything.
doesn't change that.
Well, I didn't know that, that's
Yeah,
why
no, that's a
what I
good
was
question.
asking.
That's a great question,
Correct?
because some people, I think, were thinking kind of like you might have been.
Well, it's good information.
It is. It is.
What this allows you to do is to not have to publish it in the paper.
Exactly.
Yes.
And have a
Which,
bid
in
on
what you said, what,
We're not
really,
getting
what
the
is that done
response
anyways?
anyway.
Exactly,
Right.
it's a
It's just
step
slowing
that's
down the
not
process.
necessary. It's not cutting, I hear what you're saying, that your concern is the checks and balances are being lessened. And I guess what I'm hearing in this is that it's really a step that doesn't, it's really not a check and balance, it's really a step that,
You're worried about the paper, whereas the checks and balances are through the government issue of the school, which is the school board. You see what I'm saying? That's the checks and balances.
right.
That's not a piece of paper going out in the Vidette, so
What I'm
that's
hearing
not
is
even
what I'm
in the
hearing is it
conversation.
doesn't really matter. This doesn't take away some of those checks and balances.
No.
How, now, explain to me how it don't.
Well, it has to be in budget. If it's
Okay.
over $500, you have to send out for bids.
No, not bids, quotes.
Thank you.
Make sure you get that part right.
Thank
There's a
you.
difference between a bid
I
and a quote.
apologize for my incorrect vocabulary.
Bid and-
Dr. Satterfield has to approve it, and Angie is involved in that process, and I'm not real sure of that, and I'm not gonna misspeak, but
Just 3 people.
yes, and so all this cuts out is having to publish it in the paper, and another step, or is that the step that cuts out?
If I understand the procedures right, David and Angie would work together on getting the quotes. David usually gets those, or Angie, and they work together on that. They would get those quotes, they would bring those quotes to Dr. Satterfield. They would look at those. They would look at things like, have we done business with have we done business with any of these companies? Do we know their track record? That type of thing. Which one seems to be the best quote? That type of thing. There's a lot that goes into that. I mean, like I said, with have you done, those types of things. And what else would y'all look for in that? And those are things I know you would look for. And can we get them installed in time? Because I know by having, especially with technology, having them getting them installed in time is one of the big issues. Because as I said, Andy, and I hate to admit, I forgot his partner's name, Edgar, they do a great job. I worked with Andy for years, but there's only so much time in the day.
But I understand where you're going with that, but what Dr. Satterfield just said, that everything is based off June the 1st, because that's when the budget comes out, correct?
July 1st.
July
July
1st.
1st, excuse me.
Get your vocabulary.
So what does that have to do with anything in this category? I mean, you can vote it in prior to July
Or
1st.
no.
That has nothing to do with
You
it
don't
going.
have the money, you can't do that. Because you don't have, you can't vote to buy something if you ain't got the money for
You
it.
know what's coming already though.
But we don't have the money for it. I mean, we can't, just because we have set a budget and the school board has approved a preliminary budget, we don't have an official budget until the county court approves it.
Okay.
So we can't buy, so if they're running late in their budget process and stuff, which has happened,
Right, I believe it.
if they may not get it approved, let's say for some reason until the middle of July. They've got like up until like around August before they have to do something. If that runs late, then that puts all this stuff that much back. But we can't just go out and buy it because we don't have the money approved to pay for it yet.
But
Am
yeah,
I right?
Yeah, we can't, see, what she's gonna do is she's gonna be about the
No.
first, second week of May, she's gonna close the budget.
The books.
The books. And we can't spend any money other than a line item she's left open. It has a couple grand in it, and we buy some tires for a bus. But if we go over that, we're gonna get an audit finding. So she's gonna estimate that and get that really close. Therefore, we can't buy big ticket items until July 1. And that's if the county commission approves the budget, and they have for the past few years. without having an approved budget, and she has to get it on the accounting software where we can make a purchase on July 1.
And that gives us July 1, when the school started.
No, hold on.
3 weeks later.
In our savings account, we can't spend that money at all.
No,
You
you have to move it into
You
the
would have to
budget.
do a
Or do a budget amendment.
Okay, so, and when is the cutoff? When's the cutoff for Miss Angie?
We usually try to get the schools to have all their purchase orders or purchase requisitions submitted early May, late April, and then we cannot spend, of course, you know, there's gonna be those things that come up in June.
Yes, ma'am.
June 30 is when we cannot write any more checks.
Anything out of the accounts, correct. So June 30th. Everybody's buying when? June 1st?
July 1st,
July
the next
1st.
day, because that's when your new budget starts.
Okay,
That's when you actually have the money.
but we have a savings account. That's what I'm missing.
But we-
I can help you
Yeah,
on
okay,
that.
okay.
You do.
Please explain it to me.
Let me say this, neither Angie, anybody can go into that savings account unless we have board approval and we have county commission approval. So we've got to do a budget amendment to take it from revenue. You've got to vote that first. Then next month, we got to get to the county commission to approve it, to get into the budget. And see, what we've done, when we build our FY 23 budget, that's one of the things why we have a retreat and stuff. These are the things we're looking at purchasing and buying. You know, we try to get.
That we know about.
That we know about, which means the budget is nothing more than an estimate. That's all it is. So it's the start plan. That thing changes as you go along. So the idea of this thing is, the board has approved the budget, and that's what we have to live in, but we can't open that thing up till July 1.
Well, I understand we can't open that. That's what I mean. Okay.
But we can't go into,
I'll leave
we
it.
can't go into.
But you're talking about
We're chasing
transparency.
our tails around.
But but what I'm saying is, you're talking about transparency and responsibility. The same thing is governed over our fund balance or our savings account. We can't go use that unless we have board approval and county commission approval.
My personal opinion on this item just has to be, I think we do a pretty good job with transparency. I've never noticed anything. If it can help save some time and get some, especially during that period in the summer when it's so, to get stuff installed in classrooms, just your safety equipment, the added cameras and all that kind of stuff. I have trust in the people that we have, and I'm not saying anybody's not saying we don't, but I have trust that this policy could help us save some time, and if it can help us save some time, then that frees up people with more time to be working on other things.
And by getting some of those things, not everything, but by getting those projectors in, those computers in, those Chromebooks in, and getting them by the first day of school and having those ready for students, that's a service to students. And we're the only organization, you know, the county is buying trucks, water lines and stuff. We're educating kids and we need those materials. And time means a lot in the service of children. And let me say add this one other thing. And I said this to you the other night. When the next audit report comes out, the FY 22, Board of Education will have a clean, perfect audit for 12 years running. And that's the responsibility of that lady right there. 95% of it comes from her oversight. And I mean, I feel comfortable that we haven't abused public funds or done something wrong. I mean, you can make a mistake every once in a while, I'm sure, but we've had 12 years of perfect audit findings. And I think my father used to say, a good indication of what will happen is what has happened, and she's managed those funds very well.
Kudos, I agree with what you said about Angie. I have no issues at all. And I think she's done a fine job.
And just like I said the other night, the bottom line comes with each one of us as a board member has to vote our conscience when it comes to each item.
But I
that's all it
think
is.
that you've gotten off course that if you don't approve it, it's that somebody is mishandled or anything else. Nobody's
Nobody
going
ever
with that
said that.
route.
That's what I said. I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Nobody's ever.
Nobody's accusing anybody of being a thief. Nobody says anything that anything's been mishandled.
I agree.
So that train derailed some time ago. Nobody's going down that track. It comes down to $25,000. You know, that's a lot of money. You know, I understand what they're saying. I can't grasp it in my head, and they've been in the game a whole lot longer than I have. Okay? They are way better at it than I am, or ever will be. And, you know, but I'm sitting here going, they're telling me that we gotta have this stuff ordered, and we can't till we get our new budget. No, we got the money back here, and we've got our list already made, so we should have done ordered and spent that, and we knew it was coming, and we shouldn't be waiting on our new budget. But that's me, and that's apparently not right, okay? I'm not arguing anything with anybody about that. But to me personally, your county's line's 10, and I don't see that anything's wrong with that. Me personally, I think 25 is too much, and that's just my opinion. Okay? And that's all it is.
That's what matters.
But I ain't accusing nobody of stealing nothing.
Nobody,
Okay? Or nobody doing a job any wrong or anything else.
If we had any evidence of that, we would have talked about this.
Well, I'm just
We've
being
been dealing
honest.
with that a long time ago.
But I told y'all from the bat the other night
You did.
where I thought it was, so.
Other discussion? All right.
I do have one question.
Sure.
This could be addressed a month or 2 months down the road if things change, if it didn't pass tonight. If it passes, it's a moot point. But is that a question? Okay,
Come to be
It
time.
it could come back.
okay.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, our discussion might possibly get the county moving. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking of is in that area. I would think that any bookkeeper having to deal with this, I mean, they may have more projects than we do, I don't know. But, you know, time saving and that kind of stuff.
This kinda came up just because of the truck. And the way I got it, right? You were emailing back and forth, you went to a meeting, you heard that, so you asked her that when you talked about the
No,
truck.
they were two separate ends. I've been working on this since I went to training back in October.
About the 25,000.
Right.
Oh, it just the way it looked in the email.
It just happened to,
No, the truck came later and I just asked her in one email. I kinda saved my questions.
So do
for
you
it.
think the county knows about this?
I don't know. I couldn't speak on that.
were they at that training?
No.
Okay, so they may not.
That's right.
I mean, if you don't go, it's hard to
You don't know, you don't know.
Right. Okay, other questions? That's good. I think that was a good question. You know, it did look like they were kind of combined. It just, as we find out now, it just was happenstance. It just happened to work out that way. Other questions? Okay. Does anybody have a motion? I think according to Robert, I have to ask that 3 times before it fails. Automatically. Does anybody have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we pass, I was hoping the verbiage was up there.
What?
I would like to make a motion that we move the threshold from 10,000 to 25,000.
Okay.
I was trying to cheat off the,
Well,
there was no description there. I was like,
no, you got it right.
okay.
You got it right. Your motion is, I mean,
Robbie's
it's 10,000 now.
listening.
So you're making a motion to move it to
Move
the
that
approved threshold of 25,000.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Because I'm gonna put you on the spot, I'm gonna second. So we have a motion by Ms. Bodie to approve moving it from 10,000 to 25,000, and a second by me. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand. Motion fails 3-2, Dr. Satterfield.
Got it.
Now, at this point in time, I would ask Dr. Satterfield to put this into our board retreat
Okay.
and let this be something that we can discuss
One of the discussion items.
at that time.
Okay.
And he can bring in more detailed information than what we've been
Okay.
dealt to Tuesday night to tonight.
Okay. Let me suggest then to, I think that's great, Dr. Satterfield, add this as a discussion item to the February 4th board retreat. If any board member has what types of detail, because he would have to meet with Angie and get that kind of stuff together. If you're talking about, like tonight, she had to go pull the
Right.
files to find out numbers. So whatever type of question you have, if it's gonna require him to get information from her, obviously he needs that kind of time to have that information ready for us on that day.
I'd be interested to know if the county, talk to Jack, see what their deal is. Are they gonna leave it like it is, or are they gonna change it? I mean, that would be an item that would be interesting to me, to see. And the only reason I say that is, I don't know.
No, that's a question you have and you'd like an answer to, and I think we can get there. Yeah. Okay. All right, next on our agenda is item 6D, substitute stipend for teacher planning time use. We talked about this a good amount of time on Tuesday night. We've been being told monthly about the great job that our certified staff is doing, mainly at the middle school and the high school. Elementary is kind of a different animal, as we discussed the other night when it comes to this type of thing. Not that this wouldn't cover them also, but this would allow us to pay a stipend to certified teachers who are giving up their planning time to cover the classes of teachers that are out sick, and basically it's because of the lack of substitute teachers that we've been able to attract to work in our system. Dr. Satterfield, would you like to add anything else to that?
I think you've explained it well. We, prior to COVID, we never had a great deal of substitute teachers. We had a lot more than we have now. We thought as COVID dissipated that we would return to a state of normalcy in that space. That hasn't happened. We've got some very good subs, but they're not available all the time. And we've had to ask our teachers to cover for one another from time to time. And Ms. Petty, this is something you brought up in those questions. And one of the things I said, I think that's legitimate. I think that's something that we probably need to address immediately. And I thank you for doing that. I'm keeping waiting, maybe the situation will get better, or I'll have some more substitute walk in like the bus driver, the other day. But I pitched this to our principals and they thought it was very fair, and the teachers would appreciate it a great deal. And there's some stipulations that I would recommend. That number one, that teachers are not paying teachers. That I'll cover for you, you cover me, and then we'll send you a bill. I want to be sure that it's assigned by the principal each and every time. It's only for certified teachers. We're not doing it for any other category of employees. And they provide instruction to students, so they would be following the other teacher's lesson plan. They would be instructing students. They wouldn't be babysitting them, so to speak. And it would be for a minimum of a 45-minute class period. Most of our class periods are 45 minutes or more. We talk about that at the high school. Some teachers have a 90-minute period, and then the next day they don't have a planned period, and the next day they do. So, I think this would be well received by our faculty. I don't think that it would change our substitute teacher line item a great deal. Ms. Madru, talking to her, she said, actually, this one actually will apply to her school, because what she does is, if she has got a teacher out, she just takes those students out, have one third grade class and gives 3 or 4 more, or 5 more to the other teachers, and they spread them out, so, this would, help or have an effect at your middle and high school, where they have class periods or class blocks.
Questions for Dr. Satterfield?
And the $25 came from that we presently pay our teachers $25 for doing things outside of the regular school day, like doing extra professional. So, $25 an hour. So it's 45 minutes or more, it rounds off to be an hour. That's a whole lot better for us to keep up with than trying to do time and effort logs and break it down by how many minutes they were in a classroom. That would cause more headaches on our accounting department. So just $25 per block would be well welcomed.
Questions for Dr. Satterfield?
Can Dr. Coon speak?
I'm fixing to call her.
I just want to say thank you for coming up with this to try to find a way to help those
You started
teachers who are, well, I was approached about it myself, but that was a pretty quick turnaround, so thank you all for trying to find a way to help the ones who are helping out their peers.
Dr. Coon, would you like to?
Thank you. Because, that was 2 hours ago. But 10 minutes into our meeting, just had notification 2 more teachers will be out tomorrow. We don't have any subs. 2 subs are out for surgery. We've got 1 teacher out on maternity leave that started yesterday. Another teacher going out on maternity leave any minute now, literally. But we lost 2 subs to surgery, 6 to 8 weeks. Another sub, she's limited to the medical issues. The other one, she's got previous commitments to another job. We only get her 2-3 days a week. So it's gonna be a lot of my teachers covering those teachers, so I couldn't appreciate this more. So, thank you. If you guys
We
have any-
want those listening at home to know we still need subs and would love subs. We
Please
would
and
rather,
thank you.
yeah, we would rather not cover with our teachers. We would rather them be able to take their planning period and use it as it's intended. But for those that we do use and have to use, I think they should be rewarded for that.
And if you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy.
Anybody have a question for Dr. Coon? Okay. Discussion? Does anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion for the stipend for teacher planning time use as for substitution
To be approved.
classes to be approved.
Okay. Have a motion by Ms. Petty to approve the substitute stipend for the teacher planning time use. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second by Ms. Thames. Any other discussion or questions? I didn't call on Demetrius, but if anybody might have a question for, again, the elementary is just a different type of animal when it comes to this, but I'm sure Jay Brim would have echoed Dr. Coombs's comments and everything. Okay.
I'm larger and I have a lot more staff, so I have a lot more opportunities
Right,
to
right.
move people around, so.
Good. Okay, I guess we're ready to vote. I got a second.
You got a
Yes.
motion in a second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Motion does pass unanimously. Which I assume means it can start tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
There's
Do
your,
that, Nancy?
That was my next question. And Mr. McCall said he agrees and thanks you all as well. He is listening.
he's, It don't sound like much of a ball game then if he's,
Well, technically, the game doesn't start for 2 more minutes.
oh, okay. Hi, Jay Brown. Next on our agenda are the 2 items that we moved over from new business. We'll take them in the order that they appeared in the consent agenda. The first item is 2Q, the approval of the 22-23 strategic compensation plan revisions. We were all given copies of the strategic compensation plan Tuesday night, and we went over that plan. And Dr. Satterfield went over his revisions for the coming school year. As with any plan, you're gonna, make some checks and balances, some changes into it several times. So we will open this item up for discussion, the teacher compensation plan.
The bonus, is that
Yeah, all the bonus,
Okay.
yeah.
not
There's
baseline?
two elements
Not
to the.
baseline?
Well, that's another, there's 2 elements
Okay.
to the strategic compensation plan.
Okay,
One is the baseline, one is the pay schedule, and then the other is the bonus system. But both are in the strategic compensation plan, they're just kind of 2 different elements of it.
Those are the revisions under the description, correct, that we're talking about?
Yes.
That helps me, Rachel, I'll have to look at that.
Yeah.
And you're in a disadvantage.
Those are on
That's
the
what
board are
revisions.
the revisions that Dr. Satterfield is recommending that we make. And we talked about these the other night.
I have some questions.
Sure.
Okay, for the school-wide bonus, the number of benchmarks 1 through 13.
That's the next agenda.
Okay,
Okay.
here I go.
No, that's fine.
But I mean, you're looking at the number of benchmarks and then the award, you're on the bottom of page 1.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like the elementary has 9 benchmarks.
Who sets those benchmarks?
We
Who
do.
sets them?
The board sets
The board
those
sets.
Yeah.
benchmarks.
Yeah, they're tied typically to the accountability model, which is set by the U.S. Department and the state of Tennessee. And like, for example, if you look at the rubric there for a minute, chronic absenteeism is accountability
She's
measures.
talking about this.
Yes. I got it.
3rd grade, reading, math are all accountability measures. The only one that's not an accountability measure is 2nd grade. But we put 2nd grade in there so that more teachers would be vested in student results.
Outcomes.
And because the better we do in the 2nd grade, the higher we get them up the ladder, the better they will do in the 3rd. But there's not a kindergarten or a 1st grade assessment. And the first assessment starts in the 2nd grade. So we was trying to use that for the mirror. But when you get to a place like the middle school, they have a lot of tests. I mean, they have a English test, a ELA test, a math test, a science test, and social studies test, and they've got that for 3 grade levels. So that's 12 indicators right there, that they have a test for. And then they also, the chronic absenteeism is a AMO. So every one of those indicators in the middle school are tied to the accountability model. Every one of them.
Which typically came about through No Child Left Behind, which was years ago under when Bush was president. And then the chronic absentee rate is something that the state added, 2 or 3, 4 years ago.
But does the state require you to weigh chronic absenteeism on a teacher's bonus? Or is that a board thing?
No,
The state law is,
It's just a,
It's
it's
one
an
of their
indicator.
it's one of their benchmarks, so
Right.
we don't, so they miss out
But
on
that's
part of the money.
school-wide, that's school-wide.
the state,
See how it's a teacher's, how that affects their bonus when kids don't come to school.
I think our job is to try to inspire and motivate students to come instead of just writing them off. and for us to do attendance hearings and to incentivize them. And instead of just like saying, I'm not accountable for students coming to school, then we all, making schools engaging and fun and worthwhile that would inspire and motivate students to come to school. I think that's one of the things that every teacher in that school can do is try to incentivize kids to come to school on a regular basis. And we talked about a minute ago.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and we talked about a minute ago about, that third grade retention and those students who are behind and how there's a correlation, between chronic absenteeism and student achievement. So working on that chronic absenteeism piece is, I think, it's kind of like the stick that stirs the drink on the other academic indicators as well.
I feel like every month they were missing a lot of students due to sickness, and by looking at last year's scores, every school is missing out. Every school, every teacher is missing out on one of the benchmarks due to how many kids are out, whether they're sick or just skipping school. I don't know, but
Well, if they're sick, if they have a doctor's note, well,
No,
in
no.
total
It don't
absence,
matter.
total absence.
no, it
Yeah,
don't. So it
you're right.
don't matter. So
You're
if
right,
you've
you're
got
right.
46.
It took me a minute to juggle that around and
40,
bring it back.
46 kids out and they can't help it.
Right.
Hopefully their parents don't send them to school. Then we're punishing our teachers by not paying them part of their bonus based on that. So that's one thing I have a little bit of issue with. I also wonder about the
FAFSA?
FAFSA, okay. Currently, the statewide completion rate is at 46.1% according to some records I found. And we are at 72.4, so we're way above state. I'm not saying we should drop it, but it's 90% completion when, you think about the kids who know they're not going to college, know they're gonna go to work, they're gonna go and get a job, or they're gonna go to a lineman school where you can't get scholarships for, and their parents don't wanna turn over their tax information to complete this form. So is that number? I mean, do
Well,
we
let
look
me
at how
say
many of
this.
those kids?
Well, if you look at the indicators from last year,
Yeah,
you can see that FAFSA completion rate was met last year.
about 0.1.
It was met. And that was in a COVID year. And we've had more trouble getting students to do types of things coming out of COVID. But as we're coming out of COVID, we felt like that was a good benchmark. Here's the thing, and it's all about like equity and fairness to children. We need to be very careful that adults don't start making choices that kid is college material and this kid's not. And so all of a sudden is, if a child doesn't complete their FAFSA form, they're not going to post-secondary, they're not going to TCAT, and they're not going to Ball State, they're not going to any post-secondary institution because they're not going to pay that out of their pocket. They have got to have federal financial aid in order to do that. You'll have a child in college very soon and you'll be filling out those forms like my wife did.
Yeah, but how many don't do? I mean, I know there's some who who know they're gonna go to work right when they graduate because they don't wanna go to school.
But if they change their mind, they've lost that opportunity. So in filling out the FAFSA, it's a super secure, it's a website, and it takes your information straight from the IRS and puts it straight in. I don't have to give my child any kind of tax return for them to take to the high school, because I love my kids, but I wouldn't trust them with my tax return. So it's something that it's a click of a button and it goes straight over. So I feel like the security part of it is really nice. But if a child does not fill out a FAFSA, let's just say they go to work and they're like, ooh, second semester I'd really like to go to school. They've lost that opportunity for a whole year. And not only have they lost that opportunity for a whole year, it is a difficult form to fill out. I filled one out with my freshman in in college and my high school senior this year. And it's a difficult piece, and to have somebody to help you with it is really important.
And our guidance department does a really good job with that. Obviously, you saw they met that, they met those goals in the past. And we've also taken from that guidance department, they don't do assessment anymore. They don't do TCAP, they don't do ACT. Our school instructional coordinators, AKA assistant principals and Ms. Cook, they handle the assessment piece. And we took the assessment piece off of our guidance department where they could spend more time trying to meet these goals.
I think one thing Deanna said is huge. Another way of saying it is, how many 17, 18-year-olds know what they really want to do? A lot of them are gonna go to work, I think you're exactly right. They take a job, I'm sure Robbie deals with it, he's an employer in the county. They think they wanna do, let's just say HVAC. They get in there, they're not quite as adept at it as maybe as they thought. Their employer may think they're not as adept at it or not as trainable as they need to be. They think, I could be going to Ball State and taking some more classes and getting myself better prepared, but now, I didn't do that FAFSA, I got to pay for that. If they had done the FAFSA, then they go, it's free, they met the
And
whole
it never
scholarship and
expires, so
stuff.
once you put it in there
You
that
have to do it
year,
every year.
Right.
Which is what,
So
so
should
should
the teacher be, should the staff be punished or not get
I
their
don't know that
bonus
it's a-
based
I
on
don't
that
look at it
number?
as
It's a
punishment.
support.
I
It's a
look at it
support.
as an incentive. One, I think it's an easy incentive for them to make. I mean, they know what the number is. They know what 90% of the senior class is. So they know, let's just do easy math. There's 100 seniors. They gotta have 90 of them fill out their FAFSA. That's 90%. So throughout the year, I mean, they can do that. It's not like you gotta wait till the last minute to do it. And so, to me, it looks like a fairly easy number to meet. You know, and like anything, if I mean, last year was tough. Last year was really kind of the first year back from COVID, and we talked about last year how it's good to be making gains to getting back into school. And it was just gains. But this year is really the first normal year that we have had since COVID. Would you agree with that, Dr. Kuhn and Demetrius? I mean, as far as the way schools are operating. And look, if it gets to the point where we see that it can't be met, we can always change it for the next year. It's not like it's set in stone forever.
It used to be an indicator, there's just a few years ago, we put that in. And what we're trying to work on is improve our college going rate. Because if they don't fill out FAFSA, they're not going
No.
to post-secondary.
Because most of them can't afford it.
And kids are gonna change their mind all the time. My default would be, I'd rather for everybody to qualify for FAFSA, and then they decide they don't wanna use it, as that only 32% do, and then they decide they wanna go and they can't. So you've shut a door
Right.
on them. And,
And I'm gonna tell you, my kids, when they, filled it out at school, it's an opportunity to fill out a complicated form. It's one of those life skills. It's a life skill that they have an opportunity to do with a trusted adult. 18, 17-year-olds don't always wanna sit down with their mama and fill out a form.
And a lot of our,
It's very helpful.
and a lot of our students are taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
They don't have a parent to help them complete this form. If they don't get that support at school, it will not happen for them.
I feel that my sons, I feel like that a lot of parents would have great difficulty filling it out themselves without someone with a knowledge of educational matters there to help them. Now, this is tough and very time consuming.
My wife did it for our children. And,
That's because you couldn't.
no, it's because I trust her better
I
than
understand.
myself.
It is difficult, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. But I think this is what this form's about. It's about asking questions about your indicators and that type of stuff. And again, we make that decision. So if you know,
And may I add too, that it's no way intended to be punishment. It's an incentive model. It's a bonus
right,
for meeting stretch goals that are they're attainable, but they've got to have stretch to them. And, you're asking about the FAFSA rate, should that be lowered? We made it last year by the hair of our chinny chin chin, but, we might sometimes ask ourselves, should we be raising it, to include more students, is what I'm saying. So, the recommendation I was making is just keeping it where it was last year. I didn't even ask to stretch it this time.
and I will say, when I first came on the board, and seemed like within my first couple of years, we did make changes to this rubric and stuff. I thought some were a little too high, and then we changed them for 1 year, and then to be honest, we went back and we changed them back to the higher ones when we saw that our kids were meeting those and everything. Because, you take out COVID, and the year after, all 3 of our schools have been reward schools for both of the regular, so what we would call, well, last year wasn't really normal, but as we call back to normal, they made as high as anybody could in the state.
And let me also add, that FAFSA filing completion, that indicator is not in the accountability model. It's not in the accountability model. It's just that we're trying to create pathways for students to go to post-secondary.
Right.
But it's not in the accountability model. It's one of the few that's not. Actually, it's the only one on that high school list that's not in there.
But my point is, I have made motions to change certain things and stuff, and some got passed, some didn't. That's what I say, we have to do what we,
I do have another question.
Sure.
Number 18 on the eligibility rules. Am I understanding this correct in that they do not get paid their bonus until the following year?
Yes.
So if they work August or July to May, they get their bonus for that school year when?
It depends on when we get those results back.
Yeah, I think I can say it, maybe. We don't know if they met these X's. We don't know who to give an X to until the state sends us our scores. And that's the next school year.
Okay.
That's nobody here can do anything about that. That's the state of Tennessee.
They can speed, if they could speed it up, we could be earlier. We kind of went safe and we say in there that it has to be paid out by Thanksgiving. And we have always been able to meet that statement. And if we get them earlier, we can pay earlier, but we've always been able to make that. But let me say this, and we've got 2 educators here that's done this, is I think over the past several years that our teachers, I know that my wife has, is we kind of look at that as a Christmas savings account. So we get that to them before they start Black Friday, Christmas shopping.
Encourages your Black Friday.
And they get it before then, and I haven't had any negative comments about the timeliness of receiving the award. Because they've gotten so used to getting it by Black Friday.
I just was making sure I understood that.
Yeah, you're right.
Understood that correct.
And I did not leave that out on purpose on Tuesday, by the way. That's why I made another copy for you to have it. Remember, I left it out of your packet
Oh, yeah.
mistakenly
Yeah.
last
Is
Tuesday.
that page 5 and 6?
Yes. But I mean, it was in your material, but I didn't print, I forgot to print it.
The other thing, the hard to staff, is everybody not hard to staff these days? Is that, I feel like that's just
It's a sad reality, but no.
it's just a
it's not.
blank term, hard to
Most people,
staff.
most people go to school to teach what grade levels? Elementary. Probably the least, I mean,
High school math.
well, I'm talking about just teaching. A lot of people shy away from middle school. It kind of takes a unique person to teach middle school. I have a lot of experience with middle school. High school, you're getting into people's niche. You know, they're certified in English. They got certified because they want to teach English. They want to teach math. And just because of the number of people available, math and science and some of the, you know, special education, they're hard to find. You know,
Bus drivers and.
bus drivers are hard.
Bus drivers as hard as staff as anybody.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that this is pretty universal though, am I wrong? Hard to staff.
Oh, it's nationwide.
That's
For
what I'm
math
saying.
and science.
No, I'm saying school systems, I'm trying to help Rachel with what little bit I know. which
Oh,
is
we're
not
not one
much.
of the, most
Everybody does
Most
that.
places pay
Hard to
a
staff.
hard-to-staff position for special ed, math, and science on the
That's-
high school level.
Yeah.
And in some instances, English.
And there's some scholarships out there for hard to
That's what I
staff
was trying-
Right.
positions such as special ed, mathematics.
Right.
Just a couple of years ago, it's been about 2 or 3 years ago, I was in training somewhere, and they said there's 11 or 12 Tennessee Board of Regents schools in Tennessee. Do you know how many math teachers graduated from a Tennessee Board of Regents school like 2 years ago? Of all 12 universities, Tennessee Board of Regents, how many math teachers came out of Tennessee?
How about 25?
Go lower. I'm gonna win this with $1
10,
this
I
time.
said 7.
10, you're the closest, 10 to fill all the math positions in the state of Tennessee. And we're having the same thing with science. Going to school to get a math or a science endorsement, those people who are doing that can make a whole lot more money in the private sector. And then the trouble with trying to get endorsement and the licensure, you know, working with a teacher today who just passed their test to get her math endorsement. She's been working on that very hard. And it's a celebration.
Oh, great.
And one of the things that I think might help her incentivize is when she gets that endorsement, she's gonna make $4,000 more. So it's important. You know, some people, and that's $4,000 a year more.
It encourages some people to make that
Yeah,
decision.
because some of them can go back and just take the praxis test and get that endorsement, and then they're eligible to move over into that area and start teaching that area and make that kind of money.
Not everybody can teach math.
And
That's true.
it takes a special person to work in special ed. That's why those are hard to staff positions, just not a lot of people are going into it.
Well, I mean, if you just go into some of the surrounding counties and look at their vacancies, you'll see it's those positions. And they're still looking for them for this year.
I got a superintendent friend in Marshall County, and they're like, of course, they've got like 2 or 3 high schools, and I think they're 6 or 7 math teachers down, and they've contracted with some online instructional program like Edivate or something. They've got kids taught by a teacher in New Jersey on a video screen.
I hope we never have to go with
I
that.
pray. But they have no other options.
But if everybody was hard to staff, it wouldn't encourage some of your,
Well, let's be honest, let's just be perfectly honest. If everybody was hard to stay, we wouldn't pay the hard to stay.
right.
It
You
wouldn't be
have
worth the
resources-
money.
You wouldn't have
It wouldn't be worth the
resources to
money.
do that.
Other question? I mean, Rachel's looking, she's asked several. Anybody else have some? Of course, you've dealt with this for years and we've talked about this for a couple of years. Robbie, do you have some?
No, sir.
this one up here still be different than the questions that you have? Is that?
Those are his recommended
Right,
changes.
right. Oh, okay, so I'm sorry, you're asking questions about things that you may want to put on that
I
list?
just had questions about things in
Okay.
general about this compensation plan.
Yeah, that's the way I took it. Her
Yeah.
questions are
Yeah.
just about
I'm
the
just
plan
trying-
itself,
Yeah.
not
I was trying to figure out where
necessarily.
that went.
Yeah, no.
That's what I got from her questions, and the way she answered them really didn't have to do with the
Yes.
proposed changes, but I don't want to speak for Rachel.
You're right.
Okay. So while y'all are looking, I will just read the changes that Dr. Satterfield has recommended. In the elementary school, K-5 areas, reducing the number of grade level chairs from 2 to 1 per grade level in both ELA and math. And the reason this comes about, he explains below there, is what the grade level chairs used to be in charge and had to literally make the assessment test, the formative assessment. They had to go in there and actually do the questions and all that kind of stuff. Now they don't have to do that. We hired, the state gave us a company, am I right, they're state approved and everything. And we hired this company on your to make these for us with the understanding that they would be in line with the current TCAP test. And so, in other words, a job was taken away that they were getting paid for that no longer is needed, is being provided for us.
And I will say, or Ms. Badru might pitch in, that has helped with teacher preparation. They have more time to plan together, work together, and it's taken the building the assessment off, and then they can use more of their planning time in a constructive way.
They like this, Demetrius, the assessment being done, the assessment being done for them, I'm sure they like. Is the assessment adequate?
At first, there was pushback.
Mhm.
However,
Like anything new?
absolutely. But having an outside eye that is, we're looking at more, it's closer to what kids are going to see in April for
Okay.
teachers.
So what you're getting is more realistic compared to what the kind of questions and the way they're gonna be asked on the actual TCAP test.
Yes,
Because-
and it's not, our teachers are not having to create questions and search for questions, and that is, they are already doing so much.
One of
This is
the,
taking
in
one
my
more thing
first
off of them.
probably at least 8 years of being a principal, one of the things that I would tell my staff is that, going back to that, is I think our kids are as smart as any kids around the country. But it's hard to answer a question when you don't know what the question is asking. And that's the way the questions are formatted and stuff. And I think that's proven out over years and stuff, that yes, our kids are smart. And a lot of it was, the way they were asked, we just weren't used to that and that type of thing.
We get good benchmark reports from it, so
Dr. Cook, do y'all use it, is this, it may not be.
Yes, we use it as well.
Okay.
It's, we can, after each benchmark is used, then we can use those test items for different formative, smaller assessments throughout the year, just a continuous check of it. The way that the questions are designed, they look almost identical to what they will see on those EOCs, so they get used to the text-dependent questions, the technology-enhanced questions. It's more realistic, and it's saving our teachers a lot of time.
That's right. I mean, that's what you want, something that actually works and is good. Then, of course, he wants to add, he's recommending that we add an elementary math tutoring chairperson. We talked about that the other night, how math was one of the things during the pandemic that just really took a hit. And this chairperson can help prepare things and oversee things, as we try to bring our students back up in math. Heather Gully, he wants to add her, she wants to be added to the strategic compensation plan because she sees that she can make more money by this rubric. She's gonna be able to make more money. She's the last person in the county not on the plan, and, so that's great. And I hope she makes a fortune, because that means we're doing real well. And increase the high school foreign language, from hard to staff from 3,000 to 4,000. All right, other questions? I'm gonna, instead of a motion, I'm gonna ask it this way: is there anyone that would like to recommend any changes in any areas of the rubric? If so, we can take them one at a time and look at them and see what the majority is.
And Mr. Kerr, the rubric is in the next item.
Well, I understand, but that's really what your questions are around, isn't it?
We can't determine where it's at.
I was asking, I was like, I think we might really have.
Okay, well, let's finish then Q. Does anybody have any more questions about the plan itself, not the rubric? Not this part? Any more questions? So let's deal with it. Those on the screen are the projected changes that Dr. Satterfield's recommending to the strategic compensation plan. Any more discussion about that, the plan itself? Hearing none, do I have a motion? I'm not bashful. I'll make a motion that we approve the strategic compensation plan with the recommended changes that Dr. Satterfield has given us.
I'll second it.
Have a second by Ms. Thames. Any other discussion and or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no.
No.
It does pass 4-1. One against would be Ms. Petty, Dr. Satterfield. Okay, now, I was getting ahead of myself. We're up to 2R, which is the, let me read it right, go back to my, approve the school-wide benchmark rubric for 22-23. We have talked about several items on here,
Which this is all the questions that Miss Petty had is about this.
right. Yeah, I didn't really hear one on the only one that really, the hard to staff was a plan question that she, I don't remember another plan question that, I may have missed one that can, right, just the hard to staff, you asked about it.
Yeah, and the benchmarks, like how.
Well, that's this.
But the amounts on the levels and the money and that thing, that was
I
part
didn't
of it.
remember you asking about the money.
I just wondered how they were set.
We just said them.
Yeah, I know, that's why I voted no.
Oh, that's fine, that's fine. Okay. So we're all ready then for the rubric.
Yeah.
Okay. And Rachel asked several questions about the rubric, items being the chronic absentee rate, the graduation, no, not graduation rate, the FAFSA rate, and am I missing any? FAFSA and chronic absenteeism.
That's the two she asked.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's-
I thought maybe I
that's
missed
what
one.
we
Since
need
I
to
missed one of the others, I wanted to make sure. Okay. So does anybody have any suggestions or changes to anything on the rubric?
I ain't like Miss Petty. I mean, I'm all for stretching goals, as Dr. Satterfield says. But when you're stretching for something that you have absolutely teetotal no control over, being chronic absenteeism, I don't see that you can base that on somebody's pay.
Well, do they not have any control over it? I mean, I agree
Do
that,
you want them to get up and drive them to school?
no, but you can call a parent, you can take them to attendance, you can have attendance hearings, you can have a homeroom teacher that calls, if a kid's out 2 days, 3 days, they should be making a phone call. I mean, I agree that it is,
I mean, Dr.
it is
Satterfield already
really a
takes them
stretch,
to.
and I'm not sure we're gonna meet the goal the way it sits, but teachers and administrators do have, some skin in this game as far as that
Dr.
goes.
Coon, you might back me up on this. I mean, sometimes when students miss chronically, especially at your grade levels, when you do call to check up on them, you get parents who are awful,
He's alive.
or stop calling me. If he
Put me-
comes to
put
school,
me-
he comes
Put
to
me on the
school.
do not call list.
Yeah, put me on the
So
do not call
what can you
list.
do to get them there?
My next step is to go pick him up.
With the courts?
No, I was gonna go and pick the kiddo up.
Okay, and how does that?
The bad thing is he's an 18-year-old.
Mhm.
That's the
I-
worst one.
That's the super hard one. That one hurts. The ones that are jerks, that happens all the time. Nothing we can do about that. Attendance meetings, I had 3 or 4 scheduled for Tuesday. Guess how many showed up?
Wait, 0?
So,
But what can you do, what can you do to fix that?
I'll wait until they get another 3 absences, schedule another attendance meeting.
I know, but you physically cannot control it.
Well, there's he's talking about, there's a process he has to follow.
Right.
Before we can
As far
take
as
him to court.
physically
The
controlling.
court,
That's what I'm
that's through
saying.
the
I
court
mean,
system.
Which is
Physically controlling, I can't do anything.
That's what I mean, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
I just
mean,
don't think their bonuses should be weighed on absenteeism,
I agree with you 100%.
because
It's something they have no control.
That's something, I agree, they can coach them on, hey, come to school, we gotta read, we gotta do our work, but ultimately, if the parent can't get them to school, I mean, the teacher can't go around and knock on their doors. I just don't think it's their responsibility, and it shouldn't be a part of their compensation bonus.
Okay, I got a question. If you took that off, what would you do any different?
Nothing.
I mean,
I would still try to go
we didn't
pick up
have
that
this when I was a
18-year-old.
principal. I've been to many kids' houses.
That's what I'm
Trying
saying.
to get them.
Yeah,
I mean, you would still be doing the same.
That's right,
Yeah,
You're still gonna be doing the same.
exactly.
And you would with Demetrius, I would say, the elementary, you'd still do the same thing.
Hers is a little different. They can't drive, so
Right.
hers is already based on. Yeah.
Theirs is still based on,
Yeah,
those
they're-
kids can't even drive.
yeah, they're still losing money
But the teacher
based on that.
loses,
And
But they
you
don't
all,
have
and
any
you as
control
an
over it.
administrator too, right? I mean, don't the administrators have to meet all the benchmarks? So if that chronic absenteeism number is above, then you all don't get that part of your bonus either, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I just don't think
To
that's
further
fair.
answer your question,
And you? Okay, yeah, I
and
just
to
don't,
further answer your question on that as well, nothing would change because it's still state law that we're following, so.
That's what I'm saying. It's you're gonna do the same thing. They're gonna do the same thing in every school, whether that little piece is on there or not.
well, most people are in teaching for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's not their paycheck.
Yeah,
So
it's,
they're there
I think
for the
Rachel's
kids
hit
and getting
a
them to
good
school.
question, and you made a good question by asking Dr. Coon. The process that our principals have to follow is not gonna change, because that's the process that the state has that you have to go through to get them into truancy court. I mean, that's the end all, taking them to a judge, and I'm gonna be honest with you, they can't say this, but most of the time the judge ain't gonna do nothing to them. Judge ain't gonna put no parent in jail. They should,
I've been doing this 12, 13 years and I ain't seen it.
that's what I'm saying.
Really?
No.
but hold on. You've heard from him 12 years, you've heard just what you said,
Yeah.
but yet we're gonna stand here and base their payoff of that is what that's what
It's
we're,
recommended.
right, that's what we're discussing.
It's our decision,
Right,
what to do on that.
but we're listening to y'all say it's this bad, and we've listened to them say it's this bad, but yet that's what this is, you know what I'm saying? And that's where she's going with it.
And I would just like to make it clear, the benchmarks are 12 benchmarks for $3,000 for all the school-wide bonus, or 13 or 9. I mean, I wouldn't want, I'm not saying I wanna take away chronic absenteeism and then also take away one of those benchmarks. I'm not recommending that.
I don't know how else you would do
You
it.
got
If you took
to.
out one of the indicators, then you went from 9 to 8.
Yeah, you just lowered the number. It is, that's not that
But
big.
you made each indicator worth more money though.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
That's,
Just by doing that.
exactly.
I'd still wanna leave the amount the same, okay,
I get
Okay.
that. I totally get that.
okay,
Yeah, I never thought you meant anything
okay.
different.
I'm just making sure I crossed all my T's.
You did. Did an excellent job.
You know the job.
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
Well, may I ask this?
exactly.
And the only reason I say this now, I'm not trying to argue with nobody, I want to be sure about this. But chronic absenteeism is part of that accountability model.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
We're not gonna get out from under it.
If
The
you make,
state
if you make
put that on us.
reward school, or they put you on the needs improvement list, this will always factor in. We cannot, we can't run away from state and federal law in that. So what I'm saying is just a last ditch effort before you cut him loose. Would you consider changing the threshold? Look at where you were last year and look at, changing maybe the threshold. Would that be a consideration? You can see at the elementary school, they were 12.2 last year. The middle school was 9.1, and the high school was 14.6. And I will tell you this, that the middle school has more attendance hearings than any of those other schools.
Guaranteed.
They hustle. They hustle.
So I think what Dr. Satterfield's asking us to do is to, on this form has those numbers. Would you consider reducing the percentage
Or
and
increase.
keeping chronic absentee rate for another year? Or do you want to do away with it totally? I think that's what I'm hearing. I may be wrong.
For example, your elementary and middle school, what if you put them at 10%?
Well, then you're raising middle school. It's already
You are, but that's what they had last year.
9.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, but I'm just saying, you know, both of them are in the average. They used to be 10%, didn't they? Huh? And they changed it a
Yes,
little bit.
we made it 1 year, and that's when
Right.
they
So what I'm
changed it.
saying, I'm just pitching this. I mean,
That would be adding 4% to each school.
you know, and
So then
then
14%.
take your
I know it's still.
take your high school one and make it 14 or 15 or 13 or, you know what I'm saying? Instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, you know what I'm saying? I mean, think about establishing a threshold that you can live with. It's a realistic goal, a stretch goal.
It is a realistic goal, but I still disagree.
Okay, I mean, I'm
That's
just
just my opinion.
asking.
I just don't think it should be there. When it goes to money in their pocket for their job, I just don't think they should be.
Well, their job's not on the line.
Yeah, I know that, the money, I mean,
That indicator might be worth
That's what I was
$250
thinking, it's like 250, yeah.
250's a lot of money.
after taxes.
Let's don't talk about that.
So let me ask you this question. So what difference, it's the same question I asked Dr. Combs. What difference if we lowered it, do you think it's gonna make with the teachers, what the teachers is gonna do?
I don't know, I'm a little bit skeptical saying I shouldn't be held, I should wash my hands of student attendance. I think that we should inspire and motivate, have encouraging lessons, you know, that a student would want to come to school and have a safe school so that they would want to come to school. I don't know if I'd want to eliminate the entire idea. It's easy for us as adults sometimes to blame somebody else. And, I've said this, you've heard me say this before. The student don't have a mama and they don't have a daddy. I'll tell you what we're gonna be. We're gonna be their Aunt Jane and their Uncle Joe and their mom and daddy. We're gonna be everything that we can be for them. And he tell you, did you listen to him, Ringo? Ask him, what's the next thing you're gonna do? He said, I'm gonna go pick him up. I picked up kids. I know a lot of teachers has gone and picked up kids before. Not because they was getting a bonus or anything, not because they love and care for kids. And
Well,
so,
I think the way Rachel's framing it though is, should the teacher be penalized for that?
well, actually, I was looking at it more as an incentive. All of a sudden, you're doing that good work trying to get kids to school, and you're getting incentivized for it. I mean, you're getting rewarded for it. That's what I'm saying. Can you get to a threshold that seems to be
Yeah, but
a realistic number?
You could be a teacher made of gold, and just like the ones who didn't show up for their hearing this week, if they ain't gonna come, they ain't gonna come. It don't matter if you're a rock star $1 million teacher.
I understand.
Unfortunately, that's
I
just,
agree with that, but I know that sometimes some teachers build special relationships with
oh,
kids.
yeah, mine
Hopefully
has like
this
5
will
mamas at
change
the
that.
high school. I mean, and she's got a mom and dad at home, but she looks forward to going to school.
It's pretty cut and dried. I mean, we have an angel of a principal at the elementary and they still don't come, right?
She has to battle that smiley face, you remember?
Yeah.
Those early grades? Right, those early grades and those latter grades.
So kindergarten, that's right, you get the other end of that smile.
You got something?
You know, and.
No, I got the other end of the
He's in the same
spectrum.
Okay. I just saw his hand up.
Usually in education, we get the bell curve when we're looking at benchmark data.
Right.
This one's the other direction.
Right.
But
And
let me say,
you could argue that a tested teacher is hit when a child doesn't come to school because they can't reach their growth scores or their AMOs if a child's not at school, and so, they're really getting that from 2 different directions. I know when I was a 4th grade teacher, I wanted every one of them, every single day, and if they weren't there, I was calling them, and I mean, and that wasn't just my idea, that was everybody, and that's the way they feel. They want everybody every day, so.
I hope we don't have a teacher that wouldn't call,
Yeah,
just because it's not on the
I
rubric.
would say you don't.
If we did, if, I'm just saying, if that got changed and if that came about, it's obviously gonna get put back on there pretty quick as,
what if you set the thresholds exactly where we achieved last year? Just keep the same number. I mean, I wouldn't do that to the middle school though. I'd put them where I put the elementary school. You know what I'm saying?
This number here on last year's, right in here, is that the proposed number for this year?
No, that's the
Or is that
number
their
that-
actual number
That
from
was,
last year?
that's their actual
That's
number
what
from
I
last year.
thought.
That red number,
Okay,
you
that's
got
what I
that green
thought.
color line, don't you?
No,
But that red number,
I can see
is
the
what
number,
they
I just wanna
achieved
make sure I
last year.
understood what it meant.
so what I'm saying, we don't go backwards.
How are we going backwards? Didn't you say that they're already gonna be, it's on what model did you say it was on, that they're already getting
Accountability.
accountability model? So if you take it off of this end, they're still being held for it on this end.
We are, and we can't avoid, well, I can't outrun that one.
I understand, but, how are we going backwards by taking it off of them off this one? Cause they're still held by it by over here.
I don't.
I think you just,
Did I say something wrong?
no,
I like the idea of making the threshold higher, achievable, right? It's unachievable right now because, yes, they're gonna have to do that work anyways, so why not give them an incentive? Why not reward them for doing that work? They're gonna do it anyways, but why not give them an opportunity
That's what I'm
to
asking
reward
you.
them?
Can you find a threshold that you would be,
what would you suggest?
I mean, I don't know, when I hear principals talking about numbers this year compared to last year, are we not seen higher rates of
What's your number look like this year?
this year than last year? I know it's hard, I'm putting you on the spot. Or similar.
You worse, better?
We don't need to put them on the spot, I don't think.
Well, you're fine. I've got a spreadsheet. Now, I don't know if I can pull out a percentage.
You had a lot more sick kids this year.
These have
My own
transferred out.
personal kids.
Mine's
I mean,
good.
Bethany tomorrow's gonna miss day number
Yeah,
9.
that's no
She has
right.
102 fever tonight, so what am I supposed to do, send her to school?
What it looked like.
I'm just.
I mean, 9 days.
Look,
She's already said what it was, you know.
Me and doctor have become friends, but I mean, that's legit, I'd love to send her to school.
Yeah,
I sent her to school a day this week when I shouldn't have. 'Cause I mean-
I'm gonna be honest with you, I think Rachel's made a good point to me. Like I said, I hadn't shied away from judgment to begin with. And if we find that teachers aren't, continuing to help, we can, just like I said, we could, change it, you can always change it back.
That, when, I know I should know the answer to this. The accountability model is your school, you're looking at your school accountability, and that. then-
District and school.
Yeah. And this is more a teacher.
Right.
Yes
That's
or
the way
no?
I, that's,
Right,
and
that's
that's
my
exactly the way
concern
I.
about taking, yeah.
That's the
Like
way I see it.
Clint said, and he's 100% right, the school district and the school can't outrun it.
Exactly.
That's the way Robbie put it, and we can't. It's on, the states put it on every school district in the state and every school in the state. It's gonna show up on our report card.
And the teacher is part of that. You see what I'm saying? But this is
Well,
more individual toward the
Put
teacher.
skin in the.
just knowing about the teacher.
Exactly. Do you see
The
what I'm
one
saying?
thing where what
I'm
Deanna's
so
saying true,
stuck on.
most of your regular teachers, or most of your normal, they're not gonna look at it as that's against them. If it comes down on their report card.
On what's this?
I'm saying if the school hits on it,
Yeah, if the school and the district gets hit,
most individual teachers
right,
aren't gonna.
exactly, that's exactly what I'm, yes, but they are still, there's an army, and they're one of the army, yes. It doesn't feed out money-wise as much like this, but this is more, you're being penalized because these didn't make it. You see what I'm saying? That's what we're discussing.
I
I'd like
understand.
to have full,
And I'm
they're being
agreeing.
incentivized to help. Versus, because I do think right now you can look at it as being penalized, the number, so.
So what's your motion? Go ahead and make one, cause you ain't gonna like mine.
I'm wasting my time.
Can we make 2 motions? Wait, I'm confused.
Well, we have to deal, let's just get this straight. If somebody makes a motion and it is seconded, we have to deal with that motion before we can go to another
Another
motion.
motion.
Okay. And we haven't got to the point yet where I've asked for a motion. I keep hearing us still discussing.
I would ask the question, does the body want to establish a different threshold or abort the indicator altogether?
I think that's the main question. I think you've hit the nail on the
But we would
head.
have to make a motion to
do
decide
it.
whether we're doing that or not.
So that's what we're
Yes.
discussing. between
That's what I'm
us.
saying, so.
Yes, and that's really
If
what
you
the
abort the
discussion's
indicator,
been
it doesn't
about.
matter.
Yeah. Right. That's really what the discussion has been about.
Right. So you want to close discussion, or?
When people quit talking. I'm not ever gonna stop y'all from discussing. And even when we make a motion and if it gets a second, we're gonna go back to discussing, because that's what this is
I
about, you
think
know.
I've said all my points to that matter.
And I guess we're probably up to that point. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Yeah. Okay. I make a motion to go away with it.
Okay, I'm gonna restate that.
Was she gonna say something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you're gonna leave it? I make a motion to do away with this indicator in this,
Robbie, I have a motion by Mr. Atwood to delete the chronic absentee rate from these, school-wide benchmarks in all three schools. All three. Did I say that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Everybody understand the motion? Okay. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to do away with the chronic absentee rate benchmark from the rubric for all three schools. Have a motion and a second. Discussion, final discussion. Comments,
I
questions?
wish I had had some time to do some homework on this, because I had no idea this is what we were gonna do tonight, but I did a little more homework about it. I guess that's my only comment about it. I didn't know that was,
Well, if you felt like you weren't prepared to vote, you should have said something earlier, because, as I've said it all, we're going to keep everybody ready to vote.
well, I thought we really just needed to push this through, so.
Well,
I'm sorry I pick everything apart, so.
No, it's okay, and we were trying to finish.
what question would you have? Maybe we could get an answer to it.
Is it even reasonable to, the number that's there right now is just currently unreasonable. I mean, the schools aren't gonna meet those numbers. If you make the number what they were last year, is that even still reasonable or unreasonable? Just from what I'm hearing in my own little knowledge, that even seems unreasonable, so it just feels like a moot
So,
point, why even do that?
Right, so who
Right.
knows, and so if we drop it and then they're still gonna miss out and then we're gonna.
Right,
miss out.
that's my point, I would like to have known that,
You would like to have had time to come up with an alternative number?
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just remember, those numbers in red are the numbers that we had last year.
Yeah. I just feel like we might be in a different position this year than we were in, I don't know, maybe we're not, it's just one of those things I would've, it's okay, we can vote, I'm good.
Okay. Other questions, concerns from any other board member? Are we ready for the question? Sounds like it. All right. Let me pile that up on my to-do list here.
You go.
We have a motion and a second to delete the chronic absentee rate from the Trousdale County school-wide benchmarks. We're gonna do a show of hands again, since to keep us from doing it 2 or 3 times. All in favor of removing the chronic absentee rate from the benchmark, raise your hand. Those against removing it, raise your hand. All right, motion does pass 4-1, the only no vote being Ms. Bodie. Okay. And just as another point, we have to approve this every year, so the same discussion can come back up when we get ready. Normally, it's earlier in the year. We would have been doing this in the first semester. So hopefully, scores and things will be getting out, and we can discuss that back on the normal time, which is, if I recall right, it's usually around October, early November, something like that, isn't it? In a normal,
Yeah, we're just at the mercy
of the
of the state
state, right.
results. I would say safely, it's gonna be November or December.
Okay, so,
Time.
whenever that time comes next year.
And that just then makes the other indicators worth more. correct?
Yeah, that's all it is. The money, well, I don't, is there, I really should ask this, I mean, is there anyone else that wants to change, that wants to make a motion to change any of the other indicators or the money? I mean, you took off one, you could always take that out of the money if that's the will of the board. I don't see that, but I'm just trying to.
I do, I personally would rather I would like to leave it the same.
Me too.
Any other changes? Okay, we're good with that item there. Next on our agenda is, in my opinion, the highlight of the night. We have 6 teachers that are up for tenure. That's I remember when I got tenure, that was it's proud, it's an achievement that you made as a teacher. I'm sure you remember yours, I'm sure Clint remembers his, and our principals remember theirs. It's a feeling of achievement that you come to. We do, just as a reminder, we do have to take each one of these separately by state law and vote on them. They have, if for any reason they are not approved for tenure, then they are dismissed and are no longer eligible to teach in the Trousdale County school system, period. All of these have been recommended, and I'm gonna ask Clint just to make sure, but as we talked the other night, all have been recommended by their particular principal. 5 are from the elementary school, 1 is from the high school. Just to get this out of the way, Ms. Badru, have you recommended all 5 of yours for tenure?
Yes, sir, I have.
Dr. Coon?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay. Dr. Satterfield, would you like to make any comments on these people before we begin voting?
Just to remind the board and anyone listening that these people have shown exemplary results for students. They have worked in the district for a minimum of 5 consecutive years. And in those, at least those last 2, they have been evaluated as performing above or significantly above expectations. I also concur their recommendations to the board for tenure.
Okay. As I said, this is a proud moment, I think, for these teachers, and I congratulate them heartily, but I guess I ought to wait till after we vote. They have all been recommended by their principal and by the director of schools. First on the list is Sean Baker. Sean is an elementary teacher that's been recommended for tenure. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant Sean Baker tenure.
I have a motion by Ms. Hetty to grant tenure to Sean Baker. Do I have a second?
Second that motion.
Second by Ms. Bodie. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any noes, please say no. Ms. Baker is awarded tenure unanimously. Next is Amy Brown. I think she's also an elementary teacher. Do I have a motion to approve Amy Brown for tenure?
I make a motion to approve Amy Brown for tenure.
Have a motion by Ms. Bodie to approve Amy Brown for tenure. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Second by Mr. Atwood. Oh, I thought you said something, okay. I have a motion and a second to approve Miss Amy Brown for tenure. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Ms. Brown is awarded tenure unanimously. Next is Leah Davidson. I believe she's a teacher at the high school. She has been recommended for tenure. Do I have a motion to approve Miss Leah Davidson for tenure?
I'll make a motion to Ms. Davidson.
Motion by Mr. Atwood to approve Ms. Davidson for tenure. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Second by Ms. Towns. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Ms. Leah Davidson is approved for tenure unanimously. Next is Marie Hankins. Do I have a motion to approve Ms. Marie Hankins for tenure?
I make a motion to approve Miss Marie Hankins for tenure.
Okay, have a motion by Ms. Towns to approve Ms. Marie Hankins for tenure. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Petty. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. Ms. Hankins is approved unanimously for tenure. Next is Kimberly Harper. Do I have a motion to approve Ms. Harper for tenure?
I make a motion to approve Ms. Kimberly Harper for tenure.
I have a motion by Ms. Bodie to approve Ms. Harper for tenure. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Second by Mr. Atwood. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. Ms. Kimberly Harper is approved unanimously for tenure. And last on our list is Mr. Michael Oliver, who is a teacher at the elementary school. Do I have a motion to approve Mr. Oliver for tenure?
I'll make a motion to approve Mr. Michael Oliver for tenure.
Have a motion by Ms. Towns to approve Mr. Michael Oliver for tenure.
I know.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay.
Second by Mr. Atwood.
I'll give you that.
All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Oh, I'm sorry, aye. Any opposed, please say no.
It's kinda like a tongue
Mr. Michael Oliver is approved unanimously for tenure. Anybody have any questions about account analysis, vendor checks, expenditures, or anything? If not, I would accept oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, I wanna make a motion to adjourn.
Yes, sir. That's my next question. Have a motion to adjourn. Anybody want to second that?
Second.
We are adjourned.